table explaining probably what went on at the bench. So again, we're going to be hearing more details from David Pecker as the cross-examination continues. Paula, what stands out to you about this?
So this feels like a hard left turn, right? Suddenly we're talking about James Comey and we're talking about the dossier, what happened. But while we're on commercial, for the first time David Pecker on cross has been asked about Stormy Daniels. He's testified that they caught and killed, so they bought and suppressed the story of a doorman who falsely claimed Trump had a child out of wedlock. They did the same for Karen McDougal, who had an affair. But when it came to Stormy Daniels, when Pecker heard about her story, he said, I don't want anything to do with that. I'm not going to pay for her story, which is how she ended up getting passed off to Michael Cohen. Now, I want to note that Trump's defense attorney, Todd Blanche, just whispered to Trump after returning to the defense table. The judge sustained an objection from the prosecution, who objected to another question about that meeting, the one in the Oval Office where James Comey and Sean Spicer and all these folks are in. The defense wanted to ask if Pecker had learned after that meeting about what was discussed, specifically the dossier. Now, prosecutors didn't want that brought in. They objected. The judge agreed. So it's unclear what defense attorneys are going to do from here. If they're going to continue this line of questioning, they're clearly trying to get at something by bringing up this meeting.
Why would, what is the importance for, to you, what stands out? What's the importance that Beauvais is trying to accomplish here?
So he's trying to figure out if Pecker had learned about what happened in that meeting. So it appears that maybe he's trying to suggest that once Trump was in the White House, he wasn't sharing information, or he was. It's not clear to me what they're going to do now that this objection has been sustained, how he's going to pivot. Because what he wanted to do, clearly he's going to have to find another way to do it, or he's just going to have to move on.
Adam?
It suggests to me that what they might be trying to establish, because the question was that whether Pecker did not overhear what was being said, that they're trying to put some distance between Trump and Pecker in this. And so that while Pecker did have a relationship with Trump in this sort of media operation, he wasn't part of the circle that was learning about all of the inner details of what was going on inside the government part of it.
Let's go back to Dana in D.C. Dana?
Thank you so much, Anderson. And as we wait for the questioning to continue, the cross-examination by the defense of David Pecker, Caitlin, can you just kind of look big picture at what we have seen as we are on the final day this week of a very, very intense, unprecedented hour after hour after hour in this New York City courtroom? And whether going into this, we know what the Trump legal team and maybe more importantly his political team were hoping for, whether at the end of the week they feel that it's where they thought it would be or accomplished what they needed to accomplish given the circumstances?
Yeah, the testimony today has been a little bit harder to follow than I think in other days, a little less sensational, but really what it's clear, and this is what we had expected, that Trump's team is trying to do is kind of pick away at what prosecutors had been asking David Pecker this week. And right now, Trump's attorney is moving on from what Paula was just talking about there, that bizarre meeting that we heard about where James Comey is there, Reince Priebus, Mike Pompeo, all of these high-ranking officials, and David Pecker stops by, and he's now moving on, and he's asking about Trump thanking David Pecker for handling the Karen McDougal situation and the doorman story. That was one of the biggest things that we learned about yesterday, where basically Trump invited David Pecker for a thank you dinner and was asking him, how's Karen doing, referring to Karen McDougal. What Trump's team has been trying to do today, and it may seem in the weeds, but it's important, is to undermine what they were saying about the McDougal agreement, saying actually she did benefit from it because she had these columns published by AMI publications that had her name on it, so it benefited her career, they're arguing. They're saying that they believe they misled Michael Cohen on whether that agreement with Karen McDougal was bulletproof. They're basically trying to undermine that this is all this big cover-up.
And Beauvais is asking Pecker about that testimony you were just talking about yesterday when Pecker said Trump thanked him for the doorman story. Kristen, you talked to Trump sources all day long. What have you been hearing from them as they watch? By the way, because obviously there are no cameras in the courtroom, my impression from some Trump people is they're watching what we put on the screen and what we put on CNN.com. Beauvais to Pecker, quote, was that another mistake? Pecker responded faintly, no.
likely going to bring up some of that former testimony that Pecker has given, because clearly this is a guided question saying, is this a mistake here? But I would say when talking to these Trump senior advisors, I mean, you're right. A lot of them are learning about this in real time. They're watching the coverage. They have no idea what's going on inside the courtroom. Trump is there with a couple of close aides who don't have their phones. So they're following this. It is exactly as salacious as they thought it was going to be. There was no mistake. We know what is at the heart of this, an alleged cover-up for an alleged affair with a porn star.
And we have an update now from inside the courtroom. Beauvais now raises Pecker's 2018 FBI interview, asking if he recalled saying that, quote, Trump did not express any gratitude to Pecker and AMI during that January 2017 meeting. Ellie, can you explain, put yourself in the position of a lawyer in that courtroom, why this is important?
So first of all, this is a common, what we call impeachment tactic. Impeachment meaning undermining the credibility of a witness, not the kind of impeachment that Donald Trump was subjected to twice. You take the notes. As the defense team, you have all the interview notes. You know what the witness has said to the FBI
Pecker's
previously.
now looking at prior testimony.
So that's exactly what's happening, and you can confront the witness. If the witness says, I don't remember that, you say, well, here's the FBI, what we call 302. Here's the police statement of what you said. Do you recall saying this? It's a way to bring the witness back. I think the fundamental strategic issue that's happening here, the prosecution wants to paint this as Trump and his team working hand in hand with Pecker and his team for campaign purposes. And the defense is trying to muddy that up, is trying to say, well, there was much more to it. It was about other things in the campaign. There were other people involved. Trump was at a remove.
You were not
Even in the last hour, something had come up where the defense had asked the question, wasn't it widely known that the National Enquirer supported former President Trump? This is not and should not be a secret to anything. They are framing it as sort of a business as usual matter in the hopes of sort of undermining what where the prosecutor was going. And I think, that's exactly it. When you have these moments of contradicting a witness on their testimony, it actually makes for good theater in the courtroom, because in order to look at his prior testimony, it's typically going to be silent in the courtroom as you're watching this man flip through these pages and find a statement where he's wrong, and he has to admit, he will probably admit at the end of this, yeah, I was wrong this time. I
so
said that I was
end
confused.
up in jail for
Perjury.
perjuring
Yeah,
himself.
right, exactly.
Yeah, and what about when it comes to the jury, a moment like this that we're in right now, quiet in the courtroom, the drama that Elliot just described?
So I do think that it's going to have some impact, right? But this isn't hard-hitting stuff, right? This is kind of, I think this here, I think it does, like Ellie said, I think it does, undermine his testimony a little bit. It goes to maybe he didn't remember everything the right way, but it's not stuff that's going to be like, very impactful, I think, at the jury. It has to be a lot of hits in order to make it impactful.
And Beauvais is working to get Pecker up to speed with interview notes in front of him, Jamie.
Just to underscore what Jim said, I completely agree. Yes, they're trying to chip away at his credibility, but we have yet to see any major part of his testimony contradicted in this. He forgets this, he didn't say that, whatever it was, but to the point of, was this to help Donald Trump win the 2016 election? They haven't undermined that.
By not being in the room, we're sort of limited here and relying on what other people are saying. But every account that has come out has been that David Pecker has been quite disciplined in answering yes and no, and not really.
To see how effective all of this is, because obviously the argument had been, well, Trump was doing this to protect his family. One, people have been skeptical of that because you haven't seen his family inside the courtroom with him. Instead, he's surrounded by political aides. But as Trump was entering the courtroom this morning, he went in and wished Melania Trump a happy birthday and said that he wished he could be spending it with her. But instead, he was at the courtroom and having to do with that. I mean, what David Pecker most effectively did yesterday was saying that this was on behalf of benefiting the Trump campaign, that this was not to benefit Melania or to protect their relationship.
And both can be true at the same time. Inside the courtroom right now, Pecker pushes back on Beauvais and the interview notes, suggesting the notes could be wrong. So I know, let me just read the quote. I know what I testified to yesterday, and I know what I remember.
If this was an important enough issue, and I'm not sure it is, the counter move would be you get to then call the police officer or FBI agent who took that statement to the stand, and the police officer or FBI agent would say, no, actually, he did say this the first time around. I don't know that this is a big enough issue for that.
Well, the court is taking a break and the jury is leaving the room. Typical, I mean, we don't know, but is this a standard break or is this because they're
8:15 seems about right.
Yeah, it could be, well, no, it's probably a standard break only because if it were something where they had to work out the specifics of a contentious motion or something like that,
Okay.
they would have.
They're taking a break, so we're going to take a break. Just ahead, our special coverage will continue. Details continue to come in from inside the courtroom. The Trump team's cross-examination is going on of David Pecker. We'll be right back.
The sinking of the Titanic, How It Really Happened, special 2-hour premiere, Sunday at 9 on CNN.
Zyrtec allergy relief works fast and lasts a full 24 hours, so Dave can be the
deliverer of dance.
Shipments.
Already alerted, already coordinated. Every supplier sees changes as they happen.
Since when can we just scale up mid-cycle?
Since we brought in BDO.
People who know BDO.
To me, Harlem is home. But home is also your body.
Last one, everyone.
I asked myself, why doesn't Pilates exist in Harlem? So I started my own studio. Getting a brick and mortar in New York is not easy. Chase Inc. has supported us from Studio 1 to Studio 3. When you start small, you need some big help, and Chase Inc. was that for me.
Earn up to 5% cash back on business essentials with the Chase Inc. Business Cash Card from Chase for Business. Make more of what's yours.
I'm getting vaccinated with Pfizer's pneumococcal pneumonia vaccine.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
Come on. I already got a pneumonia vaccine, but I'm asking about the added protection of Prevnar 20.
If you're 19 or older with certain chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Prevnar 20 is approved in adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. The most common side effects were pain and swelling at the injection site, muscle pain, fatigue, headache, and joint pain.
I want to be able to keep my plans.
I don't want to risk ending up in the hospital with pneumococcal pneumonia.
That's why I chose Prevnar 20.
Ask your doctor or pharmacist about the Pfizer vaccine for pneumococcal pneumonia.
Today, at America's beverage companies,
Our bottles might still look the same,
but they can be remade in a whole new way. Thanks to you, we're getting bottles back.
And we've developed a way to make new ones from 100% recycled plastic.
New bottles made using no new plastic. You'll be seeing more of these bottles in more places.
and when we get more of them back,
we can use less new plastic.
See how our bottles are made to be remade.
Look, we know it's going to be a big change.
But it's the right thing to do for all of us.
It's just your mother and I want different things.
Which is why we got Sling TV.
So we can watch live and free TV all in one app?
That's right.
Dad gets live sports and news, and I get my reality shows.
And when we don't want to pay, your mom and I can still get hundreds of channels for free.
Sling is really keeping this family together.
You have no idea.
You have no idea.
Sling, the live TV you love. Sling.
Not flossing well? Then add the whoa of Listerine to your routine. New science shows Listerine is 5 times more effective than floss at reducing plaque above the gum line for a cleaner, healthier mouth. Listerine, feel the whoa.
I brought in Ensure Max Protein with 30 grams of protein.
Those who tried me felt more energy in just 2 weeks.
Here, I'll take that.
Ensure Max Protein. 30 grams protein, 1 gram sugar, 25 vitamins and minerals, and a new fiber blend with a prebiotic.
Make your first move with battery power made by Steel. Right now, save $50 on select AK System battery tool sets. Real Steel. Find yours.
I'm Zachary Cohen in Washington, and this is CNN.
This is CNN special live coverage. Donald Trump on trial. Court is taking a quick break right now. There you see the former president exiting the courtroom just moments ago. We expect court to return to session shortly. It's been a busy morning so far with Trump's defense attorneys cross-examining David Pecker. The former tabloid executive has spent much of the week on the stand detailing an alleged scheme to bury negative stories about Trump to benefit his campaign. Paul and Adam are back with me, as well as former Trump Organization attorney and criminal defense attorney Bill Brennan. Bill, let me talk to you a little bit about Donald Trump is now sort of tempering earlier comments he made, saying that he would testify. He didn't say he will testify, but he said he would. He told last night he told Newsmax he was, quote, more or less likely to testify, which I'm not sure exactly what that means. He said if it's necessary. Do you imagine him actually testifying in this case? Would that make, from a legal standpoint, as an attorney, would you recommend that?
No, I wouldn't recommend it, and I doubt very much whether his attorneys are recommending it. And, that is really a battlefield decision. That's a decision in a criminal trial that's not made until the bottom of the ninth. It's really the last decision that's ever made, and I can tell you from, 3 decades of trying criminal cases, you don't want any defendant to testify, and in this case, I predict that he will not testify.
It would open him up to questioning on a whole variety of topics that, I imagine, as you said, his attorneys would not have any interest in him opining on.
Anderson, it would be a complete, unmitigated disaster. The prosecutors in this case I've tried against, Josh Steinglass, is a pro. He's a career prosecutor. He's calm, he's cool, and he's as smart as a whip, and he would have a field day. I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't have a crystal ball, but I predict the former president will not testify. And it sounds like the way things are going, we've only got one witness in the box at this point, but Pecker at this point seems to be fairly innocuous. This whole case comes down to there's no real argument about what happened with regard to the doorman and Miss McDougal. It really comes down to why it happened. And unless the prosecution team can tie this to a motivation to circumvent federal election laws, the felony's out the window, and then the case is out the window. So I really think at this point they should just continue the way they are. And I again, really don't think that we'll be hearing from the president, from the witness stand at least.
You represented the former president in 2022 criminal tax fraud trials at Trump's second impeachment trial. Can you just talk a little bit about what he's like to work with on a case?
I can tell you, and I think Jim would probably agree with me, I had no political agenda. I represent criminal defendants. That's what I do. But I found the former president to be very easy to get along with. He was a client that really didn't give us any trouble at all. He's intelligent. He listens. He sees the big picture. So I had no issues at all dealing with him. We had some run-ins and we had some great times, but I really viewed it the way I treated. Look, the guy's the former president. You have to take that into account. But I treated him as I'd treat any defendant. If he was running the elevator in this building and was charged with a crime, I'd treat him the same way. So I have nothing bad to say about him. Frankly, look, the guy's the former president. You have to take that into account. But I treated him as I'd treat any defendant. If he was running the elevator in this building and was charged with a crime, I'd treat him the same way. So I have nothing bad to say about him. Frankly, I spent 7 weeks with Judge Merchan and that prosecution team. Same thing. They were just professionals, easy to deal with, on their game. So really no bad experience on my part.
We haven't heard from Judge Merchan about any ruling on the alleged gag order violations. There's going to be another hearing next week about what the prosecution said are new gag order violations. What do you think the Merchan is going to do? And has it surprised you that he hasn't made a ruling yet?
No, not at all. Judge Merchan is very experienced. He's very deliberative, and he's an intelligent guy. And he's really in a tough spot because if the penalties, as I understand them in New York, are $1,000 max fine, 30 days potential in jail. If he jails this particular defendant, it's going to cause huge ripple effects. I think it's really what we do. Contempt is kind of the way those of us that are parents deal with our children. You know, you do that again, I'm going to do this. Or the threat is more effective than the action. And I think Judge Merchan is just looking to get to the finish line. So he probably is holding the specter of a penalty over the former president's head and hoping he doesn't have to impose anything serious. And also, he's got a graduated scale. He can start with a fine. He can ramp it up. But if he can run this out till the case is over, it's almost a moot point. And he can deal with it. He can certainly deal with the contempt decision after the trial if he can run it out that long.
Yeah. I'm here also with Paula Reed, Adam Kaufman. Paula, they're taking a short break right now. How much longer do we expect Pecker to be on the stand for?
So the defense team says they have about half an hour of additional questioning, and then prosecutors will have a chance to do what is called redirect, so they can go back at the witness. It's unclear how long that's going to take, but it is certainly possible that Pecker could wrap up today.
Adam, do you think there have been any headlines out of today so far?
It's the first day. It's the first day in a long trial. It's the first witness. We're hyper-focused on everything that's going on in the courtroom.
These are building blocks that they're doing.
Exactly the point. As we've said a few times today, we haven't gotten to the criminal conduct yet. We're just up to the point where Stormy Daniels enters the picture, where Michael Cohen comes in, where the payments are made. None of that has been before us yet. So we've seen some sort of slimy tabloid operations. We've seen sort of behind the curtain of some of how the campaign was run, but we haven't gotten to crimes yet. I think, if anything, if there's a big takeaway, the prosecution tried to set a very simple and straightforward, collusive story, and the defense has tried to peel that away a bit and make it sound like this was nothing special, nothing collusive. This was how the National Enquirer operated.
And if there is a redirect, if prosecution feels like they want to go back at Pecker, what would be the point of that?
Usually it's to clarify something that was perhaps in the prosecution's view misrepresented or came out a little bit wrong on the cross-examination. It's very limited. You don't get to go back and start asking new questions. It has to be focused on something that was asked during cross that you feel the need, that the prosecution feels the need to clarify on redirect.
Oh, the criminal trial of Donald Trump. We're going to bring you the latest from inside the courtroom as soon as they come back. Also ahead, we'll share an exclusive CNN poll on how voters see the cases against Trump. Do Americans think the former president is being fairly treated? We'll have that ahead.
I could do this with my eyes. Oh, I missed this. Adrenaline's flowing. Just like the Stanley Cup playoffs. Passers at every turn.
You gotta gear up for the moment.
This is pretty good. You can't beat the playoffs.
Stanley Cup playoffs. Pure full shot of adrenaline right to the heart.
Somebody would ask her something and she would just walk right past them because she didn't know they were talking to her.
I just could not hear. I was hesitant to get the hearing aids because of my short hair, but nobody even sees them.
Our nearly invisible hearing aids are just one reason we've been the brand leader for over 75 years.
When I finally could hear for the first time, I could hear everything.
Call Miracle Ear at 1-800-234-7090 and schedule your free hearing evaluation today.
As the Jinx aired, Bob and I spoke after every...
Streaming exclusively on Max.
I feel like new sunglasses, like a brand new pair of jeans. I feel like taking chances. I feel alive. Brand new. I feel brand new.
COPD isn't pretty. I'm out of breath and often out of the picture. But this is my story. And with once daily Trelegy, it can still be beautiful. Because with 3 medicines and 1 inhaler, Trelegy keeps my airways open for a full 24 hours and prevents future flare-ups. Trelegy also improves lung function, so I can breathe more freely. all day and night.
Trelegy won't replace a rescue inhaler for sudden breathing problems. Tell your doctor if you have a heart condition or high blood pressure before taking it. Do not take Trelegy more than prescribed. Trelegy may increase your risk of thrush, pneumonia, and osteoporosis. Call your doctor if worsened breathing, chest pain, mouth or tongue swelling, problems urinating, vision changes, or eye pain occur.
What a wonderful world.
Ask your doctor about once daily Trelegy for COPD, because breathing should be beautiful all day and night.
When you're the leader in disaster cleanup and restoration, how do you make like it never even happened happen? Let it rain, Randy! Woo! Yes! By being prepared for anything! Woo! Whatever comes your way, there's a pro for that.
Serve Pro, like it never even happened.
Life, diabetes, there's no slowing down. Each day is a unique blend of people to see and things to do. That's why you choose Glucerna to help manage blood sugar response. Uniquely designed with Carb Steady. Glucerna, bring on the day.
The best ideas come from solving common problems. My problem, like a lot of other men, I couldn't find a shirt that looked good untucked. So this became my passion, to design a shirt that captures the perfect balance between length and fit. Easy to say, not that easy to do. But with some innovative design changes, we did it. Our problem, my solution. Untuckit.com.
Dangerous ladders, gutter muck? Ugh, no wonder you hate cleaning your gutters. Good thing there's Leaf Filter. Our patented filter technology keeps leaves and debris out of your gutters forever. Guaranteed. Call 833-LEAF Filter to get started and get the permanent gutter solution that ends clogs for good.
They took the time to answer all of our questions. They really put us at ease.
End clogged gutters for good. Call 833-LEAF Filter or visit leaffilter.com today.
5 good things. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back. We just saw the former president re-entering the courtroom after a short break in this trial that has been going on now for 2 weeks. We are on Friday, ending the second week, and it looks like Caitlin Collins getting close to ending the David Pecker testimony. Break in this trial that has been going on now for 2 weeks. We are on Friday, ending the second week, and it looks like Caitlin Collins getting close to ending the David Pecker testimony. Mm-hmm. But I want to ask you about, as they get ready to start again, about what we saw this morning from the former president going before the cameras, what we saw even throughout the week. He seemed to have focused less on his grievances, not that he didn't mention them, but less on his grievances, and finally started to listen to his campaign aides and use that megaphone, use that microphone for some actual campaign business.
Yeah, he's kind of been airing his grievances everywhere else. Don't believe that he's not doing it.
And he's doing it there too. It's just in addition to that.
Yeah, simply because he's not saying it necessarily nonstop as he has typically been doing in front of the cameras. He's instead been focusing on things like these pro-Palestinian protests that have been roiling college campuses. He talked about the GDP. He's talked about Israel. He's talked about inflation. That is a tactic by the campaign to try to use these moments where they know he is going to get media attention. They post moments beforehand and tell reporters that Trump is about to speak because they know it'll be those moments. Trump, though, is still on Twitter and on social media, or not on Twitter, on Truth Social, making clear his grievances, complaining about the court. Just today, he's complaining that it's locked down.
And it's cold. And it's very cold.
Mershon is back on the bench in the courtroom. They just took a short break. But on David Pecker, you are right. They do expect to finish his testimony today. It sounds like his cross-examination is about to be done. Then the prosecutors will have another chance. But I was told this morning they do expect a second witness to get on the stand today.
So, Jim, I want to ask you, as we wait for David Pecker to get back on the stand and for this to resume, the defense says that they have less than an hour left. Caitlin just noted this in their cross-examination of Pecker. What do they have left to do?
So I think what you're going to see is a transition here. What you haven't heard from David Pecker directly is he was directed by Trump to do this for campaign purposes. He was directed by Cohen to do this for campaign purposes. And I think I think some of this is going to center around, once you get Cohen on the stand, Cohen wasn't paid by the campaign. He wasn't part of the campaign. So they're going to have a real struggle trying to make that connection. Because if you're not part of the campaign, you're not part of campaign staff, what's the true connection here to the campaign? I think that's something that they're going to start to draw out, and I think they're going to focus on with Cohen.
And as David Pecker is returning to the courtroom,
yeah,
Elliot.
I think one of the prosecution's challenges throughout the trial, but particularly with David Pecker, is moving from, well, we all had an implication and we all thought that what Donald Trump wanted was to affect the campaign, to a real understanding that that's what he wanted. Now, you can convict someone on the basis that, well, we just thought this is what the defendant wanted, but
Trump is now seated between his attorneys, Emile Beauvais and Susan Neckles.
But it's a stronger case to be made that there was some clear directive or so on. So really, it's just a question of overwhelming evidence or not.
This is a great detail, Ellie. Pecker is smiling in the direction of the defense table, a.k.a. at Donald Trump.
There are human moments at trial. I mean, it's a bunch of human beings that were once close. Apparently, David Pecker still thinks he has some sort of, I mean, they haven't spoken in a while, but doesn't harbor any hatred for Donald Trump.
Trump's been saying nice things about him. It's only every other witness he's attacked, he's been saying David Pecker is very nice.
Well, but okay, I'm glad you brought that up because that's part of the argument that the Trump defense team is making about the gag order.
Right.
Because saying nice things about a witness isn't just being nice always. It's also,
it could influence them. It could influence
right?
them. That's right. And that's part of the reason that I remain miffed that Judge Merchan has not come out with a ruling. Bigger picture. One of the most common mistakes that defense lawyers make is they try to annihilate every witness on cross-exam. And we prosecutors would go back to our office and laugh. We go, this guy thinks he's going to win the trial based on his cross-examination of some innocuous witness. And Todd Blanche and Emile Beauvais are both former federal prosecutors. So they've been part of those conversations. And it looks to me like they are choosing their battles. They have not tried to destroy David Pecker. They're trying to pull out certain facts that are helpful. They're saving their fire for Michael Cohen.
I have a question about the gag order because I was actually the person who asked Donald Trump about David Pecker, and he told me that he was nice and etc. I'm curious, how do you stop that kind of interaction?
Kristen, I think we're having a little bit of trouble with your audio. We're going to get back to you.
Okay. So Kristen asked.
Hold that thought.
Yeah. Kristen asked Donald Trump about David Pecker, eliciting Donald Trump's response that he's a good guy.
And she was asking
Kristen said, how do you control that? It's a tough one because all that Donald Trump could really say there to comply with the gag order is, I can't comment on that under the existing order. And you made a really good point, Dana. You are technically violating the gag order, not only if you say something negative or intimidating, but also if you say something positive. The gag order doesn't specify positive or negative.
Saying something positive could be very intimidating.
Sure, and yes, intimidating or enticing.
If you are Donald Trump,
right,
you are sending a message.
Thank you.
And the question is, what is that message? I just to add to what's coming next, Jim, I'm very curious to see whether they ever up their game against Pecker, whether it ever becomes, you're shaking your head. I agree. I don't think it's going to happen or we would have seen it. But I would like to suggest one other thought. David Pecker knows a lot about Donald Trump, not just the facts of this case. Yes, to Ellie's point, you pick your witnesses to go after, but this is someone who's had a lot of dealings. These are not the only stories they've dealt with. He may not want to antagonize.
And Jim, as you answer Jamie, Beauvais asks Pecker to describe when FBI agents came to his house in 2018. What's that about?
Again, they're trying to establish that, that there were these other conversations. They're probably going to get into some of the conversations that happened there, perhaps further impeach his testimony. Again, this is just the chipping away and not the big deal issue, but chipping away piece by piece at Pecker's testimony. And going back to that, I don't think they're going to go after Pecker aggressively. There's no incentive to do it at this point. All he can do is maybe, if he's incentivized, is to pile on what Cohen's going to do.
And Pecker says that the FBI agents took his phone with a search warrant. They did not search his home.
Well, and this moment is important because they're getting to the part of the Trump-Pecker relationship where things deteriorated. This is when David Pecker signs that non-prosecution agreement. And, before that, David Pecker had been showing up to the White House, getting tours of the Lincoln bedroom. This is the beginning of the end. They have not spoken since 2017. This is the first time they've actually been in the same room we believe, ever, and since that happened. And so that's what they're kind of getting at here in this moment, where David Pecker starts cooperating with the federal government.
And that's exactly what is happening. Beauvais again confirms with Pecker that AMI, the company that owns National Enquirer, entered into a non-prosecution agreement with federal prosecutors. Kristen, your mic is now working. Go for it.
Yeah, I think that all of this is, again, trying to undermine Pecker, but I do think it's interesting. I mean, it's not just that they're not going after him, but again, as we've said, Donald Trump himself has only good things to say about David Pecker. I think that goes to your point that Pecker, has the receipts. He was around for a long time before. And, we talk a lot about Donald Trump saying this was all about the campaign and Pecker hearing him say that. It was really interesting also to see the evolution of how these stories came to be with Donald Trump. It was his family, then it became the campaign, which is...
And we're seeing part of the description of that evolution right now. Beauvais asks Pecker whether the meetings with FBI agents were stressful. Quote, "You wanted it over with, though, right?" He asks. Yes, Pecker says.
So he's trying to undermine the testimony.
So it's a couple things. One, we know there's not much left, and the defense has saved sort of their most, what they think is their most compelling material, which is impeaching his credibility a little bit. So number one, they're building to talking about that non-prosecution agreement. Also, there's a fallout with the defendant, and anytime you have a witness who has some sort of personal beef with the defendant, you're potentially planting in jurors' heads the idea that the witness is testifying out of a mixed motive, that not just he's there to tell the truth, but he wants to bring down this person for personal reasons. And so I think they're building to a crescendo, not banging the table and screaming, but certainly leaving the jury at the end with their final point that they think hurts him.
And really that he wanted to get out of trouble, right? He was tired of dealing with the FBI. I mean, nobody wants to deal with the FBI. It's stressful. That's what they're saying. Like, I wanted to get them off my back. I entered into this non-pros agreement. That deteriorated the relationship with Trump. But it really goes to the heart of, how involved was the government in coaching, if you will, or preparing the witness, if you will, for his testimony in this case.
Yeah, so it is standard that prosecutors will meet with and prepare or coach. Either characterization is fair, actually, a witness like this. But defense lawyers, it's absolutely fair game to say, look, you've met with them a bunch of times. And they'll usually say, and I asked to meet with you and you refused, right? That can resonate with juries. I think it's worth talking about the non-prosecution agreement, just so people remember what this is. David Pecker, and I said, well, here we go. Beauvais asked Pecker if it's true that at the time of the non-prosecution agreement, AMI was in talks with another publisher to sell some of its tabloids. So a non-prosecution agreement is a deal between prosecutors and a witness that basically says, we're going to give you a pass. We are not going to prosecute you, and you are going to testify truthfully.
Well, this is really important because they're trying to get at motive for why David Pecker signed that, because they're bringing up that at this time, as you can see here, AMI was in talks with another publisher to sell some of its tabloids. And in order for that deal to go through, these investigations had to be resolved. So they are basically trying to get at the only reason David Pecker entered into this agreement was because he wanted to be able to financially benefit.
Pecker confirmed that the deal included a provision that the investigations had to be resolved before the deal could be finalized. As you're saying, this is really a crescendo.
Right, and I think this also instills in the jury this idea that the federal authorities were involved, right? Why were the federal authorities involved? Because they were looking at an FEC type issue or a federal issue. Donald Trump was never charged by the federal government. The jury's going to be sitting there thinking about that. Why were they involved anyway? And why wasn't this charged?
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see if there is a redirect from the prosecution after the defense finishes with David Pecker. We're going to take a quick break. Coming up, we're going to continue to update you on this Pecker testimony. We're going to bring you the latest, again, as we have been all morning, all week, from inside the courtroom. Don't go anywhere.
Live from the nation's capital, one of the most unforgettable nights in D.C.
It's wonderful to be back here again.
President Biden and comedian Colin Jost headline the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Live tomorrow at 7 Eastern on CNN.
There are giants among us. They are the men and women building our Navy's next generation submarines. They are giants in what they do, because they work in a place where they can grow. where they can learn the skills to build careers as powerful as the beasts they forge. We build giants because it takes one to build one.
It's really been a gift having Mom live with us. But as a nurse, my training told me she needed more help than I could provide. So I connected with a place for Mom. My senior living advisor understood our unique situation. She quickly recommended communities and set up tours. A place for Mom helped us get to a decision. And now, Mom is so well cared for.
Talk to an expert senior living advisor today at no cost to your family.
I was born with wings, but psoriasis swooped in to clip them. It crushed my confidence.
But no longer will psoriasis get a piece of me.
I can love my skin again with Bimzelx.
Only Bimzelx targets and blocks IL-17A plus F to calm inflammation.
I can control my plaques and start getting myself back.
Bimzelx helps adults with moderate to severe psoriasis control plaques to deliver clearer skin fast for results that last.
I will give myself back the freedom of shorts. Dare to wear black again, from head to toe. Most people got 100% clear skin.
Some after the first dose.
Serious side effects, including suicidal thoughts and behavior, infections, and lowered ability to fight them, liver problems, and inflammatory bowel disease have occurred. Tell your doctor if these happen or worsen, or if you've had a vaccine or plan to.
Start to get yourself back with Bimzelx.
Ask your dermatologist about Bimzelx today.
It's Kubota Orange Days. Shop the year's biggest selection of Kubota equipment and get 0% APR for 84 months or up to $3,300 off select compact tractors. Find your nearest dealer at KubotaOrangeDays.com.
If you have Graves' disease and itchy eyes, the truth may be even more uncomfortable. People with Graves could also get thyroid eye disease, or TED, which may need a different doctor. Find a TED eye specialist at isitted.com.
Denture wearers can go wild with wildly adhesive C-Bond denture seals. Get strong all-day hold thanks to gradual release technology. Go wild, C-Bond, wildly adhesive.
The day you get your Clear Choice dental implants makes every day a let's dig in day, a chow down day, a take a big bite day, a perfectly delicious day, a love my new teeth day. Because your Clear Choice day is the day everything is back on the menu. A Clear Choice day changes every day. Schedule a free consultation.
Imagine a future where plastic is not wasted, but instead remade over and over into the things that keep our food fresher, our families safer, and our planet cleaner. To help us get there, America's plastic makers are investing billions of dollars to create innovative products and new recycling technologies for sustainable change. Because when you push for smarter solutions, big things can happen.
Okay, everyone, our mission is to provide complete balanced nutrition for strength and energy.
Ensure with 27 vitamins and minerals, nutrients for immune health, and Ensure Complete with 30 grams of protein.
Closed captioning brought to you by Gilt. Visit Gilt.com today for up to 70% off designer brands.
Gilt has the designers that get your heart racing. At insider prices, new every day. Hurry, they'll be gone in a flash. Designer sales at up to 70% off. Shop Gilt.com today.
And we're back with more special coverage. First criminal trial of Donald Trump. You're looking at new sketches from inside the courtroom. A lot of news so far as the former president's defense team has been questioning former tabloid executive David Pecker. I want to bring in retired New York Supreme Court Judge Diane Kiesel. Thanks so much for being with us. First of all, just how do you think it's been going today in terms of cross-examination?
Well, the cross-examination is doing what it needs to do from the defense perspective, which is to chip away in little bits at Mr. Pecker's testimony. Now, whether ultimately that sways jurors against what he's had to say is an open question.
So they asked Pecker if that testimony was another mistake. Mershon sustained an objection from Steinglass over the question. You know, Let's talk about the Judge Merchan. We have not heard from him on the gag order. There's another hearing next week about alleged new violations, according to the prosecution, of the gag order. What is he going to do?
I have no idea what he's going to do. His options are very limited.
Does it surprise you he hasn't made a ruling thus far?
It has a bit. It has. It seems to me that I expected that after the hearing, and I understand why he wanted to do the hearing and why he wanted to take it under submission. He wants to be very careful in a case like this, and I assume wanted to issue some type of written decision. I expected we would have seen it at some point this week, and now we have 3 new alleged violations, so now I suspect he'll put them all together and rule next week.
Beauvais is emphasizing the first paragraph of the non-prosecution agreement that says prosecutors will not criminally prosecute American Media Incorporated. This idea that there's a non-prosecution agreement, clearly the defense wants to kind of raise questions in the jurors' minds about the motivation of David Pecker and how come he got a pass, whereas Donald Trump does not.
Absolutely, absolutely. The idea is to do everything they can to undermine the motive and the credibility of Mr. Pecker.
Is it common to have a non-prosecution agreement with a co-conspirator?
Yes and no. It depends on how badly you need his testimony, and it depends on how culpable he may have been.
But prosecutors make deals with people who have participated, who are conspirators in illicit acts.
Sure, all the time. I mean, sometimes, you take your witnesses as you find them. That was always, when I was a prosecutor, that was always a standard summation line I had. If I went to central casting, I wouldn't have picked this particular person to be my witness. This is the guy I'm stuck with, ladies and gentlemen, and sometimes you have to make these deals.
Yeah. Paula, what stands out to you?
So it is interesting that they're going back to the non-prosecution agreement, because even as someone who has covered this for years, I was at the press conference where they announced the non-prosecution agreement. It does help to suss out, okay, why did AMI and David Pecker kind of get off? Michael Cohen, of course, had to plead guilty for his role in some of these payments, and then years later we're here with Trump in court. So this really is an important aspect of Pecker's testimony to clarify, but what they're trying to do is show that he was under pressure when he signed this, that there were business concerns, that the whole FBI investigation had to be remedied somehow, had to be resolved before the company could move forward with some acquisitions that it wanted to do. So they were trying to show to the jury that, look, he was under a lot of pressure. This is what he had to do.
There may be redirect. Prosecutors may talk to David Pecker a little bit more, but do we know who the next witness is going to be?
So we don't know who the next witness is going to be. Now, just to guess, I think if you're going to look at David Pecker's testimony, remember we're in the very early stages of laying out this case. You could call, for example, Hope Hicks. She came up a few times because she was in some key meetings with Michael Cohen and or Trump and or Pecker. Another possibility is Kellyanne Conway, because she could talk about, remember, she was a very powerful official at the White House, but before that she was leading the Trump campaign, the first woman to lead a successful presidential campaign. She could come in and talk about the Access Hollywood tape and what a bombshell that was for the campaign. I've read her book where she talks about just what a difficult time period that was. That is significant. That could be a significant piece of testimony because it sets the stage for why Michael Cohen and Trump were in a hurry to suppress Stormy Daniels' story. So we don't know who's going to be called, but I think those are two possible.
Well, court is in session throughout the day, so whoever is going to be called, it would likely happen today.
Likely. In a lot of cases, I know, Judge, you might be able to speak to this, they don't necessarily want to start a new witness with 30 minutes to go when you have a weekend, no court on Monday. But we've lost a lot of time this week because of Passover, a dentist appointment, no court on Wednesday. So the judge wants to keep this moving along. He could allow that next witness to take the stand and allow prosecutors to begin questioning him or her by the end of the day.
I suspect it depends on how long the redirect examination is going to be. And redirect examinations are tricky because they really are limited to anything that was brought out that hurts your case on cross. And very often, lawyers will try and expand what they want to talk about on redirect. But I suspect Judge Merchan, who's trying to keep this moving, will keep it tight.
What are the other options for potential witnesses?
So eventually, of course, we're going to get to Michael Cohen. That's going to be the biggest thing that happens on the witness stand because he is the nexus, right, between Trump and Stormy Daniels. He was the one who received the checks that were allegedly falsified. And then the cross-examination of Michael Cohen, I mean, it's going to be fascinating to watch because you have so much to work with there as a defense attorney. Not only is he an admitted liar, right, in the criminal sense, he's admitted to lying, he also has a vendetta against the former president. He's named his books things like Revenge. He talks about the former president all the time. Now, a few days ago, he suggested that he's going to dial that back. But I mean, they could easily fill a week just reading back portions of his podcast and his books and his tweets, trying to show that maybe you shouldn't trust what he says. So that's, of course, the witness we're all waiting for. There's also going to be, some other witnesses that they're not household names. They're folks who worked at the Trump organization, right? People like Jim McConney, folks who can talk about the accounting practices. They're going to be critical to the defense's case because the defense is going to be like, look, Trump wasn't involved in paperwork. He didn't know what invoice was signed. Like he might have signed the checks, but he didn't know. So especially in the defense case, you're going to hear from a lot of folks who are just in the corporate side of the Trump administration. Stormy Daniels, also a likely witness at some point.
Yeah, Paul Reed, Judge Kiesel, thank you so much. Cross-examination of David Pecker appears to be coming to a close. We'll tell you what to expect next. Stay with us. You're watching CNN special coverage of Donald Trump's first criminal trial.
Every piece of evidence tells a story.
How It Really Happened with Jesse L. Martin, Sunday at 9 on CNN.
So what's the code?
Yes, it's 547.
Well, that's not working.
Dad, really needs to pee.
We're going to get in a minute, okay?
It's not open, is it?
I'll call.
Representative.
Speak with a person.
You're a valued customer.
Representative.
We can go in the window. Just a moment,
Meanwhile, at a Verbo. When other vacation rentals leave you hanging, try one where you can reach a human in about a minute.
Smile, you found it. The feeling of finding psoriasis can't filter out the real you. So go ahead, live unfiltered with the one and only Sotyktu, a once-daily pill for moderate to severe plaque psoriasis and the chance at clear or almost clear skin. It's like the feeling of finding you're so ready for your close-up, or finding you don't have to hide your skin, just your background. Once daily Sotyktu was proven better, getting more people clearer skin than the leading pill. Don't take if you're allergic to Sotyktu. Serious reactions can occur. Sotyktu can lower your ability to fight infections, including TB. Serious infections, cancers including lymphoma, muscle problems, and changes in certain labs have occurred. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, liver or kidney problems, high triglycerides, or had a vaccine or plan to. Sotyktu is a TYK2 inhibitor. TYK2 is part of the JAK family. It's not known if Sotyktu has the same risks as JAK inhibitors. Find what plaque psoriasis has been hiding. There's only one Sotyktu, so ask for it by name. So clearly you. Sotyktu.
Life, diabetes. There's no slowing down. Each day is a unique blend of people to see and things to do. That's why you choose Glucerna to help manage blood sugar response. Uniquely designed with Carb Steady. Glucerna. Bring on the day.
Generalized myasthenia gravis made my life a lot harder. But the picture started changing when I started on Vyvgart.
Vyvgart is for adults with generalized myasthenia gravis who are anti-AChR antibody positive. In a clinical trial, Vyvgart significantly improved most participants' ability to do daily activities when added to their current GMG treatment. Most participants taking Vyvgart also had less muscle weakness.
And your Vyvgart treatment schedule is designed just for you.
In a clinical study, the most common side effects included urinary and respiratory tract infections and headache. Vyvgart may increase the risk of infection. Tell your doctor if you have a history of infections or symptoms of an infection. Vyvgart can cause allergic reactions. Available as Vyvgart for IV infusion and also as Vyvgart Hytrulo for subcutaneous injection. Additional side effects for Vyvgart Hytrulo may include injection site reactions. Talk to your neurologist about Vyvgart.
Hello, Ghostbusters! It's Doug. We help people customize and save hundreds on car insurance with Liberty Mutual. We got a bit of a situation. Sure, I can help.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
In theaters now.
The best ideas come from solving common problems. My problem, like a lot of other men, I couldn't find a shirt that looked good untucked. So this became my passion, to design a shirt that captures the perfect balance between length and fit. Easy to say, not that easy to do. But with some innovative design changes, we did it. Our problem, my solution. Untuckit.com.
Attention former Marines and family members stationed to Camp Lejeune. If you lived or worked at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, for at least 30 days from August 1953 to December 1987 and have been diagnosed with cancer, neurobehavioral effects, had a child born with birth defects, or been diagnosed with fertility issues or more, significant compensation may be available. Call Legal Injury Advocates now to discuss your case.
Call 1-800-501-3636. That's 1-800-501-3636. Call now.
I'm Kevin Liptak at the White House, and this is CNN.
We're following breaking news in New York. Another day of Donald Trump's hush money trial underway right now. I'm Boris Sanchez following the trial from here in Manhattan, just outside the criminal courthouse, where a former president is standing trial for the first time in American history.
And welcome back to more of CNN's special live coverage. I'm Dana Bash in Washington. Right now, defense attorneys for Donald Trump are trying to chip away at David Pecker's credibility and undermine the former tabloid executive's testimony. I'm back with my all-star panel. And Caitlin, just bring our viewers up to speed on what we have seen so far this morning.
It's interesting because the Trump's attorneys are now cross-examining David Pecker, this tabloid king who was the one who revealed all of these details yesterday about how they would suppress these negative stories against Donald Trump by paying people who came forward with those negative stories, whether or not they believed them to be true or not. And so they've been doing this cross-examination, clearly trying to take away from David Pecker's credibility, his memory. They're not being nasty. Trump's attorney is actually being quite polite and trying to be charming in front of the jury, as you would expect. But he is certainly trying to say, well, you told investigators this and this year, and now you're saying this here publicly. David Pecker has stood up for himself and saying, I remember what I said. This is what was said to me. This is what I heard at these meetings. Right now, they're in a bit of confusing line of questioning where Emile Beauvais, Trump's attorney, is questioning David Pecker about that agreement that he struck with the federal government that provided him immunity and is the reason he's on the stand right now and doesn't face any kind of jail time potentially as a result of this. It's not totally clear to me where Trump's attorney is going with this line of questioning, and I do wonder if the jury can follow along with it.
Our reporters in the courtroom are saying that jurors have been paying attention. Their eyes have followed the back and forth between Beauvais and Pecker, and it seems to be, I'm going to go with our JDs over here, that Beauvais is, when he's emphasizing the first paragraph of the non-prosecution agreement that says they will not prosecute. It seems like what they're continuing to try to do is say, okay, guys, jury, this is why he's on the stand right now. He's on the stand because he got a promise that he wouldn't be prosecuted.
Right, so prosecutors are both trying to undermine David Pecker's truthfulness, as Caitlin said, and with this agreement, they're trying to undermine his motives. They said, first of all, when law enforcement came to you, it was at this vulnerable moment when you were about to sell your company and make a lot of money, and they had you. You had to tell them whatever they wanted to hear. You had to do whatever they wanted to say. Okay, there's a sidebar now, which means they're arguing over whether some question is admissible or not. And then the second part of that is, and as a result of that, you got a free pass. You got a walk. They just read the first line that says, you will not be criminally prosecuted for this. And as a result, you're still indebted to them, not financially, but you still have an incentive, a motive to tell them what they want to hear, to shape your story, maybe even in subtle ways.
To tell the prosecution what they want to hear.
Yes, to tell the prosecution what they want to hear, to give them little details, to maybe shade things. So they're not trying to paint Pecker as an outright liar. That'll come later with Michael Cohen. But they're trying to suggest he's compromised.
Jim, you're nodding.
Yeah, I agree 100%. They are trying to show that he cut a deal, he's trying to take care of himself, and throw Donald Trump under the bus in the process.
Yeah, something we haven't talked a lot about in the context of this. We focused so much on the criminal implications to AMI, but not the financial ones. And someone can have a financial motive for testifying or even altering their testimony based on the fact that they're sort of in dire straits here. And what the defense is pointing out, that he had a financial incentive, number one, to behave the way he did, and maybe even for testifying today. Now, whether the jury buys it, who knows?
Could I just ask a question? If you get an immunity agreement,
and they find out you're lying under the immunity agreement, what happens to you? Because my understanding is if you lose your immunity agreement, so doesn't that cut? I mean, we'll see when they do redirect, but doesn't that cut against lying when you have an immunity?
Jamie, you are doing the prosecution redirect right now.
Excellent.
10 minutes from now, they're going to ask that exact question.
Let's see if they're as savvy as Jamie Gingrich.
But that, you hit it on the head. That will be the response.
I want to, as we're waiting for Trump just tapped Blanche, who was his attorney, on the shoulder and whispered something to him after Blanche sat back down following the sidebar. So the sidebar is over. Let's see what happens with that objection. We don't know what the objection specifically was over. But if I may, Kristen Holmes, I want to remind people of the politics and what is going on here very much outside the courtroom. And a new CNN poll, which asks people who are Trump supporters. This is a national poll. This is a specific question to people who say they will support Donald Trump right now in November. Would they still support him if he is convicted of a crime? 24% say they might reconsider. How worried is the Trump campaign about that figure?
I think they're very worried. I mean, one of the things that Donald Trump's team repeatedly says when they're comparing him to Joe Biden is that Donald Trump has a solid base, that no matter what, people who like Donald Trump will show up for Donald Trump. Their belief being that if President Biden stays with a lower popularity and people don't show up, that Donald Trump could become president again in November. So looking at a poll like that is actually very alarming to people who believe that every single person who supports Donald Trump will show up to vote in November. 24% might not seem like a lot, but just that number when they're banking on those people showing up.
And just looking back at what's happening in that courtroom, Beauvais is now focused on paragraph 3 in the non-prosecution agreement, which discusses the August 2015 Trump Tower meeting.
Can I read you that section that they're talking about as we're trying to fill in the blanks following along here, which I get is not easy? That part of the section says, in or about August 2015, David Pecker, the chairman and chief executive officer of AMI, met with Michael Cohen, an attorney for a presidential candidate, and at least one other member of the campaign. And at that meeting, Pecker offered to help deal with negative stories about that presidential candidate's relationships with women by, among other things, assisting the campaign in identifying such stories so they could be purchased and their publication avoided. Pecker agreed to keep Cohen apprised of any such negative stories.
Thank you so much for finding that. And so, Jim, to you, what does it tell you about the strategy right now by and of the Trump defense team reading that paragraph that Caitlin just found? And I should say, as you respond to that, I want to say that Beauvais asks Pecker whether he recalls that his lawyer said at a 2019 meeting that part of paragraph 3 was, quote, wrong and inaccurate. Pecker says he does not. Maybe that just answered my question.
Yeah, it's just going to go back to memory. It's going to go back to the credibility of the witness, what he remembered, what he said. Again, it's just chipping away. This stuff is chipping away. I think the bigger one is the non-pros agreement generally, because they're going to hammer away on that. But we are getting to the end. This is the best stuff they have because that's what they want to leave the jury with. Can I go back 1 second to the poll? So in Pennsylvania, I'm native of Pennsylvania, Nikki Haley was on the ballot in this last election. She took 17% of the Republican vote. This is a low turnout primary, not a lot on the ballot.
Closed primary.
Reliable, right, closed primary. Only Republicans, and these are reliable Republican voters. Folks that come out for primaries are always kind of that ilk. I think, you couple the 24% with the 17% that's already kind of drifted towards Nikki Haley. We don't know what they're going to do. This matters.
And Kristen, look at what's happening right now. Trump is leaning forward, staring at the screen as Pecker reviews the record from the 2019 meeting. That's really interesting color.
Yeah, he's been really engaged in this. I mean, we know that part of the reason that he goes to these various legal proceedings is because he actually does want to be here. Obviously, he doesn't have a choice here, but in the past, he wanted to see who was testifying. He wants to engage in what's going on. He doesn't want to actually be in a courtroom being charged with anything, but once the legal stuff starts happening, he's been engaged. And we saw that also with the jury selection. He was very riveted on listening to them at times, turning around, particularly someone said that they read The Art of the Deal. That was one that perked him up a little bit. But he is following this closely to try and kind of glean what is going on here.
If I can give a little color about this statement of facts that they're talking about. This is a document that's attached to the non-prosecution agreement itself. It's a public document. Anyone can Google it. And the reason defense lawyers are trying to dispute it, well, it says Pecker says there was a dispute over one word in paragraph 3 of that agreement, quote, selling and purchasing is the same thing. Someone has to buy them, quote, he, meaning Pecker, says. So here's what's happening. This statement of facts was written by prosecutors, not these prosecutors at the DA's office, but the feds across the street, the Southern District of New York. So it has a very pro-prosecution, this was a crime slant to it. And what Donald Trump's defense team right now is doing is trying to undermine it, undermine the truthfulness of it, undermine the motives, because the jury will see this, and it reads like an indictment.
But are they trying to undermine the motive of the prosecution that has nothing to do with this trial, or trying to undermine Pecker's credibility, and are they kind of hitting the same two things with the same stone?
Yeah, I think the last part. I think they're trying to do both things at once. They're trying to suggest the statement itself is not accurate, and they're trying to suggest that as a result of this agreement, David Pecker has bad motives.
For big picture, it's not done yet. These feel like very small inconsistencies and reasonable ones that someone might forget or who's in the room. I'm also curious from the lawyers, this trial's going to go on for, let's say, 6 weeks. And I'm sure from your experience, it ebbs, it flows. Yes, the jurors take notes. But once you get to week 5 or 6, once you've seen Michael Cohen testify or Stormy Daniels testify, I just wonder whether these small inconsistencies fade into the background.
You know, I was thinking the same thing. It does feel a little small ball when you think about the whole thing in the totality, and by the time you get to the end, it's going to look even smaller in the rearview mirror, or is it about building the full
The little inconsistencies
story?
are small ball, but what they're doing is hammering again and again and again this non-pros agreement, and they're going to say that David Pecker was trying to save his own skin.
I'm just going to call it the non-pros agreement because it sounds...
You got the link.
Cool.
Now you got the link.
You sound so cool. No, I'm just play one on TV. We're going to take a quick break. Coming up, we are looking ahead to the next phase of this trial as David Pecker's testimony draws to a close. We're going to go inside the strategy for the defense team and the prosecutors. That's next.
The Sinking of the Titanic, How It Really Happened, special 2-hour premiere, Sunday at 9 on CNN.
If you spit blood when you brush, it could be the start of a domino effect. New Parodontax Active Gum Repair Breath Freshener, clinically proven to help reverse the 4 signs of early gum disease. A new toothpaste from Parodontax, the gum experts.
If you have Graves' disease, your eye symptoms could mean something more. That gritty feeling can't be brushed away. Even a little blurry vision can distort things, and something serious may be behind those itchy eyes. Up to 50% of people with Graves could develop a different condition called thyroid eye disease, which should be treated by a different doctor. See an expert. Find a TED eye specialist at isitted.com.
Denture wearers can go wild with wildly adhesive Seabond denture seals. Get strong all-day hold thanks to gradual release technology. Go wild. Seabond. Wildly adhesive.
I brought in Ensure Max Protein with 30 grams of protein. Those who tried me felt more energy in just 2 weeks. Here, I'll take that.
Ensure Max Protein. 30 grams protein, 1 gram sugar, 25 vitamins and minerals, and a new fiber blend with a prebiotic.
This home-style chicken salad wrap from Subway, this is how you do it. Savory chicken, crisp veggies, all wrapped up.
These wraps are amazing.
People can hear my thoughts. That's a problem. Stay fresh out there with all new wraps from Subway.
This is a hot flash. This is a hot flash. But this is a not flash. For moderate to severe vasomotor symptoms due to menopause, Veoza is the first and only prescription treatment that directly blocks the source of hot flashes and night sweats. With 100% hormone-free Veoza, you can have fewer hot flashes and more not flashes. Veoza reduces the number and severity of hot flashes, day and night. For some women, it can start working in as early as 1 week. Don't use Veoza if you have cirrhosis, severe kidney problems, kidney failure, or take CYP1A2 inhibitors. Increased liver blood test values may occur. Your doctor will check them before and during treatment. Most common side effects include stomach pain, diarrhea, difficulty sleeping, and back pain.
I get a good feeling.
Ask your doctor about hormone-free Veoza and enjoy more not flashes.
Today, at America's beverage companies,
our bottles might still look the same,
but they can be remade in a whole new way.
Thanks to you, we're getting bottles back.
And we've developed a way to make new ones from 100% recycled plastic.
New bottles made using no new plastic.
you'll be seeing more of these bottles in more places.
And when we get more of them back,
we can use less new plastic.
See how our bottles are made to be remade.
Zyrtec allergy relief works fast and lasts a full 24 hours, so Dave can be the
deliverer of dance.
Okay, Dave. Let's be more than our allergies. Z's the day with Zyrtec.
There's some things that work better together, like your workplace benefits and retirement savings. Voya helps you choose the right amounts without over or under investing across all your benefits and savings options, so you can feel confident in your financial choices.
They really know how to put two and two together. Voya, well planned, well invested, well protected.
The day you get your Clear Choice dental implants changes your struggle with missing teeth forever. It changes how you eat, how you feel, and how you enjoy life. It changes your smile and how others smile at you. Clear Choice Network doctors have changed over 100,000 lives with dental implants, and they can change yours too. Because a Clear Choice day changes every day. Schedule a free consultation.
I'm Caitlin Polance at the federal court in Washington, and this is CNN.
Welcome back to our special live coverage of Donald Trump's hush money trial. Former tabloid executive David Pecker is on the stand right now as defense attorneys appear to be nearing the end of their cross-examination. And as this goes down, we have CNN Chief Legal Affairs Correspondent Paula Reed with us, as well as retired New York Supreme Court Judge Diane Kiesel. Thank you both for being with us. Paula, a tenet of a successful cross-examination is undermining the witness's credibility. And much of today, Donald Trump's team has tried to poke holes in David Pecker's testimony from yesterday, right?
What's interesting about David Pecker is he's not really a witness that you have to destroy on the stand if you're the defense team here. So we have an update here. The defense team is reading from this agreement. This is a non-prosecution agreement between the government and Pecker. He's saying, so they're talking about he's saying that's different from an admission, right? So what's happening here is they're drawing attention to this non-prosecution agreement that Pecker and AMI, the company that owned the National Enquirer, entered into, where they did acknowledge campaign finance violations for paying Karen McDougal to suppress her story. And so they're trying to get at the fact that Pecker was under a lot of pressure to close this deal. They're trying to kind of take some of the bite out of this agreement in the eyes of the jury. So that's what they're focused on right now. But throughout the Pecker cross-examination, they're not so much trying to undermine his credibility. They have called up some questions about his memory. Instead, they're trying to poke holes in the prosecution's story, noting that it wasn't just the National Enquirer doing this for Trump, right? Catching and killing stories, buying unfavorable stories and suppressing them. And they weren't just amplifying bad stories about his opponents like Hillary Clinton to help him. This was just the way business was done at the National Enquirer. So they've been really focused on undermining the prosecution's case, not so much going at David Pecker, but we're going to see something different with some other witnesses.
Potentially, you see those 3 dots bubbling on your screen. That means that there's an update coming, so stay tuned for that at any moment. Diane, from your perspective, this effort to talk about the agreement that Pecker struck, and we've actually got an update, Bove noting that Pecker was also accused of a campaign finance violation, asking you certainly did not admit to a campaign finance violation, Pecker saying no from the stand. What do you make of this effort by the defense and whether it's been effective to sort of say that he had to move forward with this testimony as part of this agreement?
You know, it's very hard. If there's any trial in the world that cried out to be televised, this one certainly was. But of course, Judge Merchan is limited by what he's allowed to do under state law. It is very hard for us to be able to ascertain what is Pecker like when he's on the stand, when he answers these questions, when he says no. Is he saying it in a forthcoming manner? Is he being furtive about it? All of that is so important when trying to judge his credibility.
It's very tough, especially when we're giving these updates. Bove noting that Pecker was not part of the AMI conciliation agreement with the FEC, as Pecker no longer worked at the company. Some of this boils down to a question of the intent and Pecker's ability to make deals, business deals, right, as he was being potentially prosecuted. How does that play into this, Paula?
So really taking this back big picture, we're a little in the weeds right now in terms of the actual case itself. The reason David Pecker is significant is because he's laying out a pattern, an effort to suppress negative stories about candidate Trump to help him get back in the White House. Story from a doorman who falsely accused him of having a child out of wedlock, Karen McDougal, who allegedly had an affair with him, suppressing those stories until he hears about a woman named Stormy Daniels. And he says, I want nothing to do with that. And there are a lot of reasons, but then he hands that off to Michael Cohen. So he is really almost like the prologue to the story, because at the heart of the criminal case here. All right, so now the defense attorney is noting that David Pecker provided a signed declaration that stated that he sought legal advice related to the Karen McDougal, that payment I was just talking about to suppress her story. And he's asked, your lawyers relied on a sworn declaration to argue to the FEC that there wasn't a violation. He says yes. Now, this is significant because when he was buying Karen McDougal's story, Pecker consulted with lawyers and said, hey, is this a campaign finance violation? Are we going to be in trouble? And he's testified today here that they've said, no, you will not. But this is not the criminal conduct that is charged, right? This is setting the stage for Michael Cohen to learn Stormy Daniels is selling her story at a critical time in the campaign. Access Hollywood tape has just come out. And then the way that payment is handled and reimbursed, they're charged with a campaign finance violation. So right now, getting into the weeds of David Pecker's non-prosecution agreement, it's not necessarily going to make or break the case, but it is an important detail to get across to the jury.
It's largely table setting.
Right, but it's important to know everything that a lawyer does in a trial is a setup for summation. So they've got to raise all of these little points, and they may seem insignificant now, but a good lawyer is going to get up there on summation and wrap them all up.
We also have an update now. Donald Trump apparently is sitting back in his chair, slightly turned toward Pecker and appearing to watch him. We're obviously monitoring what the former president is doing in court, because every little thing is a signal as to how he feels about the proceedings, as to how his attorneys might approach the proceedings. I'm wondering how that weighs on the jury, his movements, and in your experience.
They are watching him like a cat watches a little hole for a mouse to come out. They don't take their eyes off him. Jurors do two things. They look at the defendant, they of course look at the witness, but they also look at the judge, which is what makes being a judge so difficult, because your face has to be a complete blank slate. They want to know how everything is being reacted to.
Stand by, because we're going to take a quick break. Coming up shortly, Stormy Daniels, Hope Hicks, Michael Cohen, they are all expected to take the witness stand. The question is, who's coming up after David Pecker? We're going to bring you the latest from inside the courtroom. Stay with CNN.
The 2024 Stanley Cup Playoffs, presented by Geico. Coverage continues.
Zyrtec allergy relief works fast and lasts a full 24 hours, so Dave can be the
deliverer of dance.
Okay, Dave. Let's be more than our allergies. Z's the day with Zyrtec.
It's really been a gift having Mom live with us. But as a nurse, my training told me she needed more help than I could provide. So I connected with a place for Mom. My senior living advisor understood our unique situation. She quickly recommended communities and set up tours. A place for Mom helped us get to a decision. And now, Mom is so well cared for.
Talk to an expert senior living advisor today at no cost to your family.
The day you get your Clear Choice dental implants makes every day a let's dig in day, a chow down day, A take a big bite day. A perfectly delicious day. A love my new teeth day. Because your Clear Choice Day is the day everything is back on the menu. A Clear Choice Day changes every day. Schedule a free consultation.
It's time for news about the news. Sling TV has the same news programming you love, starting at $40 a month. It's the same news programming you love, starting at $40 a month. That's what I just said. Right. It's the same news for less, starting at $40 a month.
Sling.
Life, diabetes. There's no slowing down. Each day is a unique blend of people to see and things to do. That's why you choose Glucerna to help manage blood sugar response. Uniquely designed with Carb Steady. Glucerna. Bring on the day.
Hey there, Brenda.
It's Carol.
Exactly. So which leg are we operating on?
You mean arm?
It's all connected.
Asking the right question can greatly impact your future.
Are you sure you're an orthopedist?
Actually, I'm a Sagittarius.
Especially when it comes to your finances.
Do you have a question? Are you a certified financial planner?
Yes, I'm a CFP professional.
CFP professionals are committed to acting in your best interest. That's why it's gotta be a CFP. Find your CFP professional at letsmakeaplan.org.
Nothing dims my light like a migraine. With Nurtec ODT, I found relief.
The only migraine medication that helps treat and prevent all in one.
To those with migraine, I see you.
For the acute treatment of migraine with or without aura and the preventive treatment of episodic migraine in adults. Don't take if allergic to Nurtec ODT. Allergic reactions can occur even days after using. Most common side effects were nausea, indigestion, and stomach pain.
It's time we all shine. Talk to a healthcare provider about Nurtec ODT from Pfizer.
If you're looking for a Medicare supplement insurance plan that's smart now
I'm 65.
and really smart later,
I'm 70-ish.
consider an AARP Medicare supplement insurance plan from United Healthcare. With this type of plan, you'll know up front about how much your care costs, which makes planning your financial future easier. So call United Healthcare today to learn more about the only plans of their kind with the AARP name, and set yourself and your future self up with an AARP Medicare supplement plan from United Healthcare.
This is my coffee shop. We just moved into a bigger space, brought on another employee, and ordered new branded gear for the team. It was so easy. I just chose my products, added our logo, and placed my order. Bring your own team together with custom gear. Get started today at customink.com.
Kids across America are going to school hungry every day. With help from caring people across America, No Kid Hungry is providing healthy meals and hope to hungry kids so they can build better futures. Learn more at helpnokidhungry.org.
Attention former Marines and family members stationed to Camp Lejeune. If you lived or worked at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, for at least 30 days from August 1953 to December 1987 and have been diagnosed with cancer, neurobehavioral effects, had a child born with birth defects or been diagnosed with fertility issues or more, significant compensation may be available. Call Legal Injury Advocates now to discuss your case.
Call 1-800-501-3636. That's 1-800-501-3636. Call now.
The White House Correspondents' Dinner, live tomorrow at 7 Eastern on CNN.
Welcome back. David Pecker is on the stand right now. Cross-examination of the former tabloid executive has now ended. Prosecutors are starting their chance to redirect. Back here with our panel, Caitlin, we know that Steinglass, who is part of the prosecution team, Joshua Steinglass, is asking about the campaign lawyer who was consulted about the McDougal deal. Pecker says he never spoke directly with the attorney. When we learned that Pecker was, well, when he revealed that he talked to an attorney about this deal, some of our colleagues thought that it was very noteworthy that he discussed this this deal with Karen McDougal with lawyers.
Well, an important moment just happened where it would be a win for the prosecution, I should note. And this is the prosecutor right now asking David Pecker if he told the AMI, the company general counsel, about the arrangement that he had made with Trump at that meeting between Michael Cohen, David Pecker, and Donald Trump. And Pecker says the outside counsel was asked to review the Karen McDougal contract, talking about who had eyes on this. But an important moment just happened when he was being cross-examined, where Trump's attorney was trying to say that his attorney, David Pecker's, once said years ago, as all this was playing out, that David Pecker never agreed to suppress stories on Donald Trump's behalf at that August 2015 meeting that is really at the center of all of this. David Pecker clarified, no, we never agreed to buy all of them. But as we know, David Pecker has testified, they did offer to serve as the eyes and ears. That doesn't necessarily mean they were buying every single negative story that came their way, but as we do know, at least 2 of them.
So what does that mean? Is this, again, just another attempt to chip away at his credibility? Is it as simple as that?
Well, so now the prosecution is
right. That was the
questioning
cross.
Right,
So now
and the point that they're driving at now is there is a dividing line in the history between AMI and Donald Trump. Before this famous August 2015 meeting, they were involved together. They were putting out hit pieces, stories that were harmful to political opponents of Donald Trump. But in August 2015, now Trump's running for office. He announced 2 months prior. Now it shifts, and this is the meeting that we've heard about, the August 2015 Trump Tower meeting. Cohen is there, Trump is there, Pecker is there. We believe Hope Hicks was there. There's some potential inconsistency. And then they say, okay, now we're going into campaign mode. And that's a really important piece of testimony for the prosecution. So they're trying to bring that fact back to the jury's attention. This shifted from a sort of all-purpose protect Trump's interest to now protect his interest because now he's entering the political fray.
And to be clear,
and do it for that reason.
Yes.
Yeah, and to pull back a little bit, the point of redirect isn't just to have another crack at the witness. It's to clean up something that went wrong, for lack of a better way to put it, during the cross-examination. What they want to leave the jury with when the witness is done is the word campaign, the idea that there was a direct nexus to the campaign.
And Jim Steinglass is seeking to infer that the election law attorney reviewed the McDougal agreement without the context of Pecker's agreement to buy stories to benefit Trump's campaign. Can you take that from the way it's described here and what's going on there and put it into basic layman's terms?
So I think what they're trying to establish here is that the election law attorney didn't, this agreement had nothing to do with kind of the campaign part, right? That there was this shift, right? And I think they're trying to look at it from the McDougal and then distinguish that from Ms. Clifford.
And just another update, Ellie. Steinglass has Pecker reconfirm that the purposes of the contract with McDougal was to acquire her life rights and to suppress her story to influence the election. It's that last part, those last 3 words, to influence the election, is the crux of what the prosecution is trying to do here.
That, in a sentence, is what the prosecution wants the jury to take out of David Pecker's testimony, that this was an intentional effort to buy stories to bury them for the campaign. And I see now we're getting an update. Pecker confirms, yes, saying the provisions about McDougal writing articles and appearing on covers were, quote, this is important, included in the contract as a disguise, trying to disguise the campaign motive by making it look like she has a modeling contract and she's going to write for us.
Also, as a sweetener for Karen McDougal, it was something to offer her, she was focused at this time on restarting her career. And so that's also part of this. And David Pecker is saying he never told the AMI General Counsel that the true purpose of the deal was to influence the election. But that doesn't mean, he made very clear how he is trying to keep all of this very small circle. He had a separate email that his assistant didn't use. He spoke to the editor-in-chief of the National Enquirer, David Howard, and made clear to him, Dylan Howard, that they wanted to keep all of this small circle and highly confidential. That's important here. And David Pecker also said that he never told the attorney that he planned to transfer the rights to Michael Cohen, who pledged to reimburse him. That's also a key part of this, because that was a big fight that they had where he was worried Michael Cohen wasn't going to pay him the money that he was paying to Karen McDougal. Jim.
This really shows that it was an obfuscation effort, right? That's what they're trying to show here. That this was all they was trying to obfuscate it with the internal lawyers, to Karen McDougal, to everyone involved, trying to keep it as closely held as possible, that the reason that David Pecker was doing it was to help Donald Trump's campaign.
Yeah, which is, in a nutshell, the entire point, and that whole premise, the hypothesis, is what Trump's attorneys are trying to chip away at, and it's part of the allegations, the charges against Donald Trump.
So I took 2 things away from this. When I first saw the testimony, I thought, well, he's not reaching. You don't want to create a reach. But, following up on what Jim said, it also says we know that he was worried about campaign finance and triggering that.
He researched it.
And he researched it. And so by keeping it a small circle, by keeping it away from the lawyer, nobody knew about.
And Kristen, the update from in the courtroom now is that Pecker also said he never told the attorney that he planned to transfer the rights to Michael Cohen, who pledged to reimburse him.
Right, so isn't this also undermining the fact that, I mean, Pecker has said he had a lawyer look at this and say it was fine, but if you don't give the lawyer all of the information, then how can it be fine? I mean, I feel like that's really like the bottom line here.
And just putting a little bit more meat on the bones, reviewing records on the stand, Pecker says the election law attorney billed AMI for 30 minutes of work. It's not a lot of work. Reviewing the McDougal contract. I won't ask what 30 minutes of work is for you guys.
He didn't pay his bills, at least.
Wasn't that what the defense was trying to get at by saying that David Pecker told Michael Cohen this agreement was bulletproof? But actually, just because an attorney said that, the attorney didn't know that it had an election purpose driving
Absolutely.
it.
And so there's a few things happening here. Number one, you're pulling out the election purpose. Number two, in the absence of a direct conversation or a direct quote where Donald Trump says, please do this to cover up a campaign, something they can try to get in is, number one, knowledge that this touches campaigns, but number two, that they know they're doing something wrong and are trying to cover their tracks. Knowledge of criminality and attempts to hide are valuable.
Especially 30 minutes. Not even telling his own attorney.
Well, and 30 minutes is like standard work to review the wording in a contract, not to go through an entire background of story. I mean, ironclad, bulletproof. Again, if you go to the hospital and you don't disclose what your issues are and you die, then you cannot sue because you haven't disclosed what your medical issues are.
Can we also be very clear here that they were trying, as David Pecker himself has testified, to cover something up, to suppress a negative story? You're not just going to write down your crimes in a contract and put them on paper and say, by the way, can you please sign this? The whole point of this is that it was a cover-up.
But
So
totally. You wouldn't write it in the contract, but the fact that he
didn't tell your lawyer,
tell his own attorney.
So the lawyer said it was bulletproof based on the information that the lawyer was given, not based on the actual information that surrounded the event.
It's exactly what Donald Trump is on trial for, though, because he put in the ledger that Michael Cohen did legal work when actually it was the allegation that Michael Cohen was paying money to a porn star. It's the exact same thing. They're just trying to say
Donald Trump doesn't have immunity.
I think you need to segregate the two. The cover-up that they're talking about here is the cover-up at AMI, the cover-up for Pecker, right? It's much different than what we're talking about in the business records case. So what this all goes to is that Pecker himself thought that this was a problem, that he was unlawfully helping the campaign. That doesn't necessarily equate to Donald Trump knowing that Pecker was unlawfully helping campaign or gave directive to it. And I think this is all going to hinge on the one guy that can put all that together is Cohen.
Update from the courtroom. The prosecutor noted that the contract that the outside counsel reviewed had no details about Cohen, the campaign, or Trump. Now, our reporters there say every juror is watching Steinglass as he's asking questions.
So
Ellie.
Jim's exactly right. This doesn't necessarily establish that Donald Trump was engaged in a crime, but it does establish that that Pecker was involved in a crime. And then, as Jim said, they're going to have to link that to Donald Trump. And also, this is very much of a Trump world, AMI world way of handling lawyers, using them as useful dupes. And the thing that came to my mind was, I mean, Caitlin, you're reporting from Mar-a-Lago on the classified documents case. What they did with Evan Corcoran, the lawyer who has now left the team, is they gave him very careful information, but they withheld other information for him. He, in turn, unknowingly made incomplete representations to the FBI. That's why there's a DOJ.
Christina
Bobb
and
Evan
just was
Corcoran,
indicted in Arizona. She signed it, but she made clear in that to say, to the best of my knowledge, because as attorneys around Donald Trump
they
know, don't always know everything.
All right, we're going to sneak in a quick break. Coming up, more from inside the courtroom as prosecutors get one last chance to question David Pecker.
Great teammates. Trust each other. We're going to do a trust fall. Stand up. You close your eyes.
Yeah, I've seen one of these before.
Trust. What the?
You set me up, Doc. You set me up.
I told you he was a dummy.
My name is Susie Loftus, and I'm the head of Trust and Safety for U.S. Data Security TikTok. I'm a former prosecutor, and it's my job to keep American TikTok users safe. A big part of that is making sure that their data is protected. We're spending $2 billion to make sure that we're keeping TikTok safe. We have a US-led team. We have a third party, an American company, to store protected user data. I've dedicated my life and my career to building safety, and it's my job to build it on TikTok.
Okay, everyone. Our mission is to provide complete balanced nutrition for strength and energy.
Ensure with 27 vitamins and minerals, nutrients for immune health, and Ensure Complete with 30 grams of protein.
The day you get your Clear Choice dental implants changes your struggle with missing teeth forever. It changes how you eat, how you feel, and how you enjoy life. It changes your smile and how others smile at you. Clear Choice Network doctors have changed over 100,000 lives with dental implants, and they can change yours too. Because a Clear Choice day changes every day. Schedule a free consultation.
Actually, you don't need vision to do most things in life. If I can see it and understand it quickly, anyone can. That's how I help people thrive. People who know BDO.
I was born with wings, but psoriasis swooped in to clip them. It crushed my confidence.
But no longer will psoriasis get a piece of me.
I can love my skin again with Bimzelx.
Only Bimzelx targets and blocks IL-17A plus F to calm inflammation.
I can control my plaques and start getting myself back.
Bimzelx helps adults with moderate to severe psoriasis control plaques to deliver clearer skin fast for results that last.
I will give myself back the freedom of shorts. Dare to wear black again, from head to toe. Most people got 100% clear skin.
Some after the first dose.
Serious side effects, including suicidal thoughts and behavior, infections, and lowered ability to fight them, liver problems, and inflammatory bowel disease have occurred. Tell your doctor if these happen or worsen, or if you've had a vaccine or plan to.
Start to get yourself back with Bimzelx.
Ask your dermatologist about Bimzelx today.
When you're the leader, disaster cleanup and restoration, how do you make like it never even happened happen? Fire it up, Randy! By being prepared for anything! Whatever comes your way, there's a pro for that.
Serve Pro, like it never even happened.
It's time. Yes, the time has come for a fresh approach to dog food. Every day, more dog people are deciding it's time to quit the kibble and feed their dogs fresh food from the farmer's dog. Made by vets and delivered right to your door, precisely portioned for your dog's needs. It's an idea whose time has come.
This is Terry's look of total relaxation. And this is his John Deere X350 lawn tractor. It cuts millions of blades of grass, transports anything that's in season, and takes care of whatever fall may bring. The X350 lawn tractor is built to give you peace of mind all year round. You just have to get in the seat. Learn more at johndeere.com/get-in-the-seat.
Closed captioning brought to you by Mesobook.com.
Our firm only represents mesothelioma victims and their families. If you or a loved one has been diagnosed with mesothelioma, call us now.
Donald Trump's hush money trial is picking up steam here in Manhattan as the prosecution is now going through its redirect examination of David Pecker, the former publisher of the National Enquirer. Our panel is back with us now. And Paula, there are signs that the prosecution is moving through this redirect pretty quickly.
Yeah, they're already talking about AMI's non-prosecution agreement. And remember, that came pretty late in the cross-examination. So this is something that could wrap up pretty soon, which raises the question of, all right, will we hear another witness and who will it be?
Judge, what do you think of how quickly this potentially is moving, the redirect?
I think it's amazing. Well, the redirect, are you talking trial in general or just the redirect?
Of David Pecker.
The redirect is, Steinglass is doing exactly what he should be doing. Moving in, hitting all the most important points, and hopefully sitting down. You don't want to prolong this. You just want to be sure you've plugged the holes.
We did get an update a moment ago. Pecker apparently responding yes to a question from Prosecutor Joshua Steinglass, that previous question about whether AMI admitted to violating federal campaign election law. They're moving to the FEC agreement, a minor but important part of Pecker's testimony.
Yeah, this is something that we've gone over a few times. AMI and David Pecker entered into a non-prosecution agreement with the Justice Department, and on cross-examination, I think they were trying to muddy the waters on whether Pecker had actually admitted a campaign finance violation. We have another update. Now the prosecutors are revisiting that the McDougal agreement and Pecker, that Pecker only agreed to enter into it because Cohen promised to reimburse him. So this goes back to the fact that the National Enquirer paid Karen McDougal $150,000 to buy her story, which of course they never published. This is the story of an alleged affair with then candidate Trump. Pecker expected to get paid back. He was not. Now we have another update from our colleagues inside the court saying they had drawn up a transfer agreement, and you went so far as to sign it. Now, Pecker says after speaking with the general counsel, he called up Michael Cohen and told him that the deal was off and to rip up the agreement. So they're going through what happened after Pecker paid Karen McDougal.
All of this, again, just table setting for the explanation of why this relationship between Trump and Pecker was so important for the prosecution to prove that this was, in their eyes, a campaign, an attempt to sway the 2016 campaign. Let's take a look at this update. Steinglass apparently has returned to the Sajidin source agreement, and he recalls that Bove had Pecker testify that this was a standard source agreement. This is in regard to that doorman that allegedly had information about an illegitimate child that Donald Trump reportedly had. There's another update now, or rather, Steinglass is bringing up the agreement to the amendment to the agreement, which changed the length of the agreement from 90 days to in perpetuity. Judge, back to my previous question, all of this just table setting. We really haven't talked about Stormy Daniels all that much, and she's key to the prosecution proving criminality in this case. How do you think this first week of testimony has gone for David Pecker so far?
Well, so far, David Pecker has done what the district attorney, it seems to me, hoped he would do, which is set the scene, but also to make sure that the jury understands that this was an agreement designed to protect Donald Trump. And I think all of this testimony about, well, you did this for other celebrities too. Well, so what? Whatever their motivation was for entering into this agreement is not at issue here. The issue is what was Donald Trump's motivation for entering this agreement, and the people of the state of New York maintain it was to protect him so he could get elected president. Whether they can prove that is another question.
We have another update now. Steinglass is asking if it is standard operating procedure for AMI to consult a lawyer for a presidential candidate about a source agreement. Pecker answering no to that. We haven't seen in this redirect the prosecution talk about the distinction between some of those other celebrities, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think Mark Wahlberg was another one, and Donald Trump, who was running for president, who in August of 2015 had this meeting that Pecker testified about, basically saying, hey, this would be a great arrangement between the three of us.
Well, what Steinglass is trying to do here is undercut what the defense was trying to do on cross, which was establish this wasn't just a Trump thing that you did to help him get in the White House. You did this for a lot of people. This is the way you do business. Now, prosecutors going back at that saying, hey, is the way you do business, right? Is it standard operating procedure to consult a lawyer? So they're trying to show that this was different. Now, the prosecutor is now seeking to tie Cohen to Trump's campaign, because there was a time when Pecker testified that he didn't really see Michael Cohen as part of the Trump campaign. Right. But again, they have laid the foundation, the prosecutors, that there was a meeting to help Trump get into the White House and that this was done for the campaign. Pecker confirms that Cohen was known to work his media contacts for the campaign. While Michael Cohen may not have officially had a campaign title, it is very hard, given his close consigliere relationship, personal attorney relationship to Trump, to really separate him from candidate Trump at that time. And he was the go-between, right, between Trump and Pecker to facilitate these payments. But that's why prosecutors are going back and they're like, wait a second, you said you didn't associate Cohen with a campaign, but come on, that's what they're doing right now.
Yeah, Cohen, who referred to himself as Donald Trump's fixer at one point, the two of them obviously were close. One of the outstanding questions now is when we might see Michael Cohen testify. An outstanding question as we go back to Washington, D.C. and Dana Bash.
Boris, thank you so much. And what we're hearing from our colleagues inside the courtroom right now is Pecker confirms that Cohen was known to work his media contacts for the campaign. My professional one-word answer to that, Caitlin Collins, is duh.
Yeah, I mean, no surprise
Can
whatsoever.
confirm is another answer.
I think it's because they were trying to draw some distance between Michael Cohen and the inner workings of the campaign. What the prosecution is doing now is getting David Pecker to clarify, yeah, Michael Cohen was seen as in the Trump campaign. Right. He was not on the payroll, never officially, but as anyone who covered the Trump campaign at that time knows very well, when something went wrong or they didn't like how you reported something, it wasn't unusual to get a call from Michael Cohen. And that's what David Pecker is saying here, that essentially Michael Cohen went on TV and defended the campaign. He was on CNN multiple times and other networks, and that he was essentially seen as this arm of the campaign. There was not a real distinction between his legal work and the campaign.
And I should say, in many moments, much to the chagrin of Corey Lewandowski, who was the campaign manager back there, and others, there was not. There was some tension about Michael Cohen being involved in the campaign in those early days in 2016, but he was. And the question is, why and how is this relevant to the underlying prosecution argument? Steinglass asks Pecker if Cohen was part of the 2015 agreement he and Trump had for his company to help the campaign. Yes, he was. That answers the question. They're using Cohen as part of the campaign to, once again, use another thread to tie this issue back to the campaign. Right now, Steinglass asked, quote, in this case, did you suppress stories to help a presidential candidate? Pecker says yes.
I'm sensing a theme.
Final question. And that's a headline.
Right.
Yes.
That's exactly where they're going to. Jim talked earlier about how do you tie Donald Trump into all of this, and we have not seen everything yet. But I think it's worth just reminding everybody that David Pecker paid this money for 2 of the stories. He expected to get paid back by Donald Trump. It did not happen, and that was the line, I am not the bank or something. I mean, so there is a context here, certainly, and a setting that Donald Trump knew about these, that this had a history.
And if one of you three was in there and you heard him say yes, do you say, Your Honor, no further questions?
No further questions. Get out of there right now.
But no, actually,
still going?
There's an update coming that I think will show why they are continuing to ask questions to David Pecker about what.
So don't get out of your skis on that.
I won't
keep talking while those three dots.
What I like about no further questions there is that he's in effect making a legal conclusion.
Okay, there it is. Elliot. Steinglass asks Pecker if he ever spent close to $150,000 for a story linked to Arnold Schwarzenegger when AMI suppressed stories about him. No. So what that means is Arnold Schwarzenegger was, at that time, yes, he was a candidate, but in this particular case, not running for president.
Right. It's in effect a legal conclusion. What he is saying here is that this operation paid money to suppress stories on behalf of the Trump campaign. That's the argument they're trying to make.
And big money.
Big money.
Not the kind of money that was typical for them, not the kind of money even in other cases.
And
like
it's also important. So I'm sorry, Jamie. It's also important that it came out of the last line of questioning, trying to understand what Michael Cohen's role was, because these people didn't have official campaign titles. They had to establish that they were connected to the campaign and made the decision.
Right, that he wasn't a rogue actor. Right. He wasn't just doing this on his own because he loved Donald Trump, which is what we've obviously seen them trying to paint him as somebody who would do anything for Donald Trump. This could, he would have gone out there, but tying him to the meeting, tying him to Pecker, all of these conversations in relation to the campaign. That shows that he didn't just do that on his own. It was just what they're trying to show.
Forgive me, I'm sorry, Kristen. If you were, you are a former Trump attorney. If you were at the defense table right now, would you be concerned about what's happening?
Sure, right? This is a good narrative for them. This is their best narrative. $150,000.
Best narrative for the prosecution.
Yes, $150,000 paid for by AMI. Is that an illegal corporate contribution to the campaign? That's the fundamental question here. Did the campaign coordinate with it? That's another question that goes to the campaign finance issue there. We're going to hear more about that from Michael Cohen. And if Michael Cohen's really the only one that ties all this together, He's got a lot of issues. I'm anxious to see what else they use other than Michael Cohen.
But the other thing is, you let this go if you're the defense. Just don't fight it, don't object, because they knew this was coming. This is the central part of the prosecution's case.
You would let it go too?
100%.
Yeah, I mean, don't, because I think the more you kick and scream about it, the more you draw the jury's attention to it. They have other ways they can attack the credibility and the memories.
It goes back to what you were saying about small ball at the end of the day.
It's just there were these little inconsistencies. Michael Cohen is coming. We don't know what else is coming. I mean, let's just remember that Lanny Davis, who was Michael Cohen's lawyer, has said that this case does not, quote, rise and fall on Michael Cohen's testimony, that there is other evidence, but we haven't seen it yet.
Prosecutors are trying to answer the question for the jury, why was the Donald Trump situation different from the Arnold Schwarzenegger or Mark Wahlberg situation? And the reason is the amount of money and the timing and circumstances around the campaign.
The person who it was for.
And the person it was for, exactly. But what the prosecution does not want to happen is the jury to go, I don't know, they did this for everyone. All sorts of famous people are engaged in this stuff. What's the difference? This is their attempt to answer that question, what the difference. The other thing to keep an eye out for is we're coming up on lunchtime. Seriously, jurors care about their lunch.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I think prosecutors are aiming to wrap. So do I.
Yeah. Thank you, Caitlin, for ordering us lunch. The prosecutor confirms Pecker's earlier testimony that because he was friends with Trump, he didn't run negative stories about him even before the campaign. We are continuing to monitor all of this news coming out from this testimony that continues from David Pecker. And this note to our viewers, be sure to watch Caitlin Collins again tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern on her program, The Source. Caitlin's guest is former Trump Attorney General Bill Barr. I am excited for that.
A lot to ask him about.
Yeah, you think? Coming up, more special coverage as this prosecution gets their final shot at questioning tabloid king David Pecker. And we stand by to see who takes the witness stand next. New details from inside the courtroom are coming up every single second. Look for those 3 dots. They'll be back.
Beyonce's new album is breaking records.
Who gets to say what country is?
Call Me Country, Beyonce and Nashville's Renaissance, streaming exclusively on Max.
I brought in Ensure Max Protein with 30 grams of protein. Those who tried me felt more energy in just 2 weeks. Here, I'll take that.
Ensure Max Protein. 30 grams protein, 1 gram sugar, 25 vitamins and minerals, and a new fiber blend with a prebiotic.
If you're looking for a Medicare supplement insurance plan that's smart now
I'm 65.
and really smart later,
I'm 70-ish.
consider an AARP Medicare supplement insurance plan from United Healthcare. With this type of plan, you'll know upfront about how much your care costs, which makes planning your financial future easier. So call United Healthcare today to learn more about the only plans of their kind with the AARP name, and set yourself and your future self up with an AARP Medicare supplement plan from United Healthcare.
Known for following your dreams. Known for keeping with tradition. Known for discovering new places. No one wants to be known for cancer, but a treatment can be. Keytruda is known to treat cancer. FDA approved for 16 types of cancer, including certain early stage and advanced cancers. One of those cancers is early stage non-small cell lung cancer. Keytruda may be used with certain chemotherapies before surgery when you have early stage lung cancer, which can be removed by surgery, and then continued alone after surgery to help prevent your lung cancer from coming back.
Keytruda can cause your immune system to attack healthy parts of your body during or after treatment. This may be severe and lead to death. See your doctor right away if you have cough, shortness of breath, chest pain, diarrhea, severe stomach pain, severe nausea or vomiting, headache, light sensitivity, eye problems, irregular heartbeat, extreme tiredness, constipation, dizziness or fainting, changes in appetite, thirst or urine, confusion, memory problems, muscle pain or weakness, fever, rash, itching or flushing. There may be other side effects. Tell your doctor about all your medical conditions, including immune system problems. If you've had or plan to have an organ or stem cell transplant, receive chest radiation, or have a nervous system problem.
Keytruda is an immunotherapy and is also being studied in hundreds of clinical trials exploring ways to treat even more types of cancer. It's true. Keytruda from Merck. See all the types of cancer Keytruda is known for at Keytruda.com and ask your doctor if Keytruda could be right for you.
The
day you get your Clear Choice dental implants makes every day a let's dig in day, a chow down day, a take a big bite day, a perfectly delicious day, a love my new teeth day. Because your Clear Choice day is the day everything is back on the menu. A Clear Choice day changes every day. Schedule a free consultation.
Zyrtec Allergy Relief works fast and lasts a full 24 hours, so Dave can be the
Deliverer of dance.
Okay, Dave. Let's be more than our allergies. Z's the day with Zyrtec.
Attention former Marines and family members stationed to Camp Lejeune. If you lived or worked at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, for at least 30 days from August 1953 to December 1987 and have been diagnosed with cancer, neurobehavioral effects, had a child born with birth defects, or been diagnosed with fertility issues or more, significant compensation may be available. Call Legal Injury Advocates now to discuss your case.
Call 1-800-501-3636. That's 1-800-501-3636. Call now.
People from all around the world running together at the same time. Sign up now at wingsforlifeworldrun.com. Let's run for those who can't.
We just signed the lease on our third shop. My assistant went to customink.com to get new uniforms with all the locations. He found great products, uploaded new art, and had boxes sent to all the shops. Custom Ink makes it so easy. Get started today at customink.com.
I'm Hanako Montgomery in Tokyo, and this is CNN.
This is CNN Breaking News.
And welcome to CNN's breaking news coverage of the historic Donald Trump hush money trial. I'm Wolf Blitzer in Washington, and Boris Sanchez is outside the courthouse in Manhattan. On this day 8 of the trial, the first witness is nearing the end of his testimony. David Pecker is facing redirect by the prosecution after several hours of cross-examination by Trump's defense attorney. Much of that cross detailed the former tabloid executive's history of purchasing stories so that he could bury them. Boris.
And right now, Wolf, the court is taking a break for lunch. The judge instructing the jury, as he always does, to not discuss the case outside of the courtroom. Day 8, the first witness testimony, as you said, Wolf, nearing the end. The defense trying to highlight apparent discrepancies in David Pecker's testimony. They included what was said during a 2017 White House meeting between Donald Trump and the former publisher of the National Enquirer. You saw that image there of Pecker at the White House. We have CNN Chief Legal Affairs Correspondent Paula Reed with us. Paula, so far, the center of Pecker's testimony has been his personal relationship with Donald Trump.
Yeah, the question of whether he used that personal relationship to suppress stories to help Trump get elected. The reason prosecutors chose David Pecker as their first witness doesn't really speak to the accusations at the heart of the criminal charges here, but it sets the stage for the idea that there was a concerted effort that Michael Cohen and then candidate Trump were involved in to suppress negative stories. And so David Pecker was questioned about that by prosecutors. Then Trump's lawyers got a crack at him a little bit yesterday and then mostly today. And they had a few goals. Well, the primary one, though, was to establish that this wasn't something special that they did just to help Trump get the White House in 2016, that this was business as usual, that they suppressed stories for Arnold Schwarzenegger and Mark Wahlberg. So that was a big focus of their cross-examination. The prosecutors are up now. They're trying to do a little bit of repair there, pointing out that, okay, you did this for other people, but did you pay $150,000 for an Arnold Schwarzenegger story? The same way you paid Karen McDougal to suppress her story about an alleged affair? Well, no, we didn't. So they're trying to repair some of the damage to the case that may or may not have been done when the defense was asking David Pecker questions.
Let's walk through some of those inconsistencies that we mentioned a moment ago. There was a moment where they basically asked David Pecker if his memory was okay, right?
Yeah, because there's been details here and there that he has not gotten exactly right. But we're also talking about meetings, things that happened over a decade ago. And so that is certainly something that you want to do with a defense, to plant the seeds of maybe doubt about some of the things that he said. But then there were more significant issues that they had to resolve in terms of things that he said during an FBI interview and how that was different than what he said on the stand, and explaining that out.
Let's talk about the defense team's questioning of Pecker regarding his agreement with the FEC, because we got really into the weeds. If you were watching earlier, you saw we got really into the weeds about the details of this agreement. What was the defense trying to do there by bringing that up?
So this has come up a few times, that AMI, the company that owned the National Enquirer, and David Pecker had what is called a non-prosecution agreement with the Justice Department, where they effectively admitted that they committed campaign finance violations by paying, for example, Karen McDougal $150,000 to suppress her story. And there's a little bit of a semantic game. Well, you weren't exactly charged, but you did admit it. So the the defense attorneys were trying to establish that Pecker was doing this only because they argued that he was under business pressure. There were business transactions that had to go through, and that he had to get the FBI investigation out of the way before he could do that. They were trying to sow seeds of doubt in the minds of the jurors about why AMI and David Pecker would have said something was a campaign finance violation. But when they had a chance to go back at him, prosecutors revisited that and had him confirm that, yes, you did admit that this was a campaign finance violation. And oh, by the way, you even consulted lawyers who you didn't give the full story to about whether this was a campaign finance violation, because you knew something may not be in the up and up.
They asked him even if at one point he fronted $150,000 for Arnold Schwarzenegger, trying to compare that scene, a celebrity trying to catch and kill a story through the National Enquirer, to former President Donald Trump in the
admit that this was a campaign finance violation. And oh, by the way, you even consulted lawyers who you didn't give the full story to about whether this was a campaign finance violation, because you knew something may not be in the up and up.
They asked him even if at one point he fronted $150,000 for Arnold Schwarzenegger, trying to compare that scene, a celebrity trying to catch and kill a story through the National Enquirer, to former President Donald Trump in the
But also called Kellyanne Conway. She was, of course, the head of the Trump campaign at that time. And the reason her testimony would be significant is to talk about the Access Hollywood tape. When it came out very close to the election, the impact it had on the campaign, the pressure they were under, particularly when it came to stories about Trump's sex life, the incentive to maybe suppress those. That would be relevant to setting up the Stormy Daniels payment. So she's a possible witness they could call next. Hope Hicks, also a possibility, again, intimately involved with the campaign and involved in conversations with Michael Cohen and David Pecker about these hush money payments. So we haven't gotten to the real heart of the case yet, but as they walk through and set it up, these are two possibilities. They could also call someone that none of us have ever heard of to talk about paperwork. Because at the end of the day, we got sex, we got politics, but really, Boris, this is a paperwork case.
Notable that the prosecution hasn't shared their plans for witnesses with the defense, in part because they're afraid that the former president is going to start posting on social media about them. We're still waiting for a decision on a gag order. Still a lot more to discuss. Paula, thanks for breaking that down for us. We'll send it back to Wolf.
Boris, we're going to have a busy afternoon. There's no doubt about that. At the same time, there's some brand new CNN polling, and it's showing us how Americans view the ongoing hush money trial and various other legal cases involving the former president, Donald Trump. CNN political director David Chalian is joining us right now. He's over at the Magic Wall. David, what do voters think of the treatment of Trump in this hush money trial, and how do they see his behavior?
Yeah, Wolf, we are getting sort of a little insight into how Americans are perceiving what's going on in Manhattan. First of all, take a look at this. We asked voters in our brand new poll by SSRS, how is Trump being treated in the New York hush money trial? About a third, 34%, say he's being treated more leniently than others would be. About roughly the same here, 34%, say he's being treated more harshly than others. It doesn't that in American politics right now. And this is interesting, Wolf. Only 13% say that he is being treated like any other criminal defendant. Not many Americans believe he is being treated that way. You asked about his behavior. You know this is the subject of the whole issue of the gag order and whether or not Donald Trump's been violating it. And obviously Judge Merchan is yet to rule on that. 42% of Americans in our poll, Wolf, say Donald Trump's behavior during this hush money trial thus far, inappropriate. That's the plurality. 25% say appropriate. 32% no opinion on that, Wolf.
Very interesting numbers indeed. All right, David, stand by. We'll get back to you. But let me ask you one quick question before I let you go. How confident are voters that Trump will receive a fair trial?
Yeah, so we did ask, are you confident that he'll receive a fair verdict? Can he get a fair verdict in this? 7% very confident, 36% somewhat confident, but clearly you see that the majority, 33% not too confident, 23% not confident at all, 56%, if you add that up, the majority do not have confidence in whether or not he will get a fair trial. And by the way, this hush money trial, 28% of Americans say if indeed these charges are true, it disqualify him from the presidency. 28% say cast doubt, but not disqualifying. But 45%, Wolf, and this is now something we've seen on the rise, say even if these charges are true, it's not relevant to his fitness for office.
Very interesting numbers indeed. What else jumps out to you from these new poll numbers that we're getting?
Well, I would just say here, we asked if indeed Trump is convicted of a crime, of any crime, not just in this hush money trial, would you still support him? So we asked this of Trump supporters. 76%, 3/4 of Trump supporters in this poll, they're sticking with him even if he's a convicted criminal. 24% of Trump supporters in this poll say if he's convicted, Wolf, they might reconsider. But I want to show you the difference in these Trump supporters, those that might reconsider versus those that are with him no matter what. Those that are with him no matter what, that's the Trump base as you know it to be. Those that might reconsider, that 24%, they're younger, half of them are people of color, 2/3 of them say Joe Biden legitimately won the 2020 election. They're moderates, they're independents. These are the softer Trump supporters. These are exactly the kinds of voters Joe Biden's looking to strengthen his support with as part of his coalition. And they're the ones that say if he's convicted, they might reconsider their support. Wolf?
Very interesting numbers, significant numbers indeed. David Chalian, thank you very, very much. Just ahead, we'll have much more of our special coverage of the historic hush money trial of Donald Trump. That's coming up. Stay with us.
The sinking of the Titanic. How it really happened. Special 2-hour premiere. Sunday at 9 on CNN.
Somebody would ask her something and she would just walk right past them because she didn't know they were talking to her.
I just could not hear. I was hesitant to get the hearing aids because of my short hair, but nobody even sees them.
Our nearly invisible hearing aids are just one reason we've been the brand leader for over 75 years.
When I finally could hear for the first time, I could hear everything.
Call Miracle Ear at 1-800-234-7090 and schedule your free hearing evaluation today.
Imagine a future where plastic is not wasted, but instead remade over and over into the things that keep our food fresher, our families safer, and our planet cleaner. To help us get there, America's plastic makers are investing billions of dollars to create innovative products and new recycling technologies for sustainable change. Because when you push for smarter solutions, big things can happen.
Okay, y'all, we got 10 orders coming in.
Starting a business is never easy, but starting at 8 months pregnant, that's a different story. I couldn't slow down. We were starting a business from the ground up. People were showing up left and right, and so did our business needs. The Chase e-card made it easy. When you go for something big like this, your kids see that, and they believe they can do the same.
Earn unlimited 1.5% cash back on every purchase with the Chase Inc. Business Unlimited card from Chase for Business. Make more of what's yours.
Allergies? With Allegra, they won't stop me. Nothing beats Allegra. It's the fastest, non-drowsy 24-hour allergy relief. Live your greatness.
Today, at America's beverage companies,
our bottles might still look the same,
but they can be remade in a whole new way. Thanks to you, we're getting bottles back.
And we've developed a way to make new ones from 100% recycled plastic.
New bottles made using no new plastic. You'll be seeing more of these bottles in more places.
And when we get more of them back,
we can use less new plastic.
See how our bottles are made to be remade.
Life, diabetes, there's no slowing down. Each day is a unique blend of people to see and things to do. That's why you choose Glucerna to help manage blood sugar response. Uniquely designed with Carb Steady. Glucerna, bring on the day.
Skin craving next level hydration? New Neutrogena Hydro Boost Water Cream. A vital boost of 9 times more hydration to boost your skin's barrier for quenched, dewy skin that's full of life. Neutrogena Hydro Boost.
I feel like new sunglasses, like a brand new pair of jeans. I feel like taking chances. I feel alive. Brand new. I feel brand new.
10,000 by next month?
I don't see. Hey, we won't know unless we try, right? How long have we waited for something like this?
We'll have to alert suppliers, coordinate shipments.
Already alerted, already coordinated. Every supplier sees changes as they happen.
Since when can we just scale up mid-cycle?
Since we brought in BDO.
People who know BDO.
Not flossing well? Then add the whoa of Listerine to your routine. New science shows Listerine is 5 times more effective than floss at reducing plaque above the gum line for a cleaner, healthier mouth. Listerine, feel the whoa.
I'm Caitlin Polance at the federal court in Washington, and this is CNN.
We're following the latest in the criminal hush money trial of former President Donald Trump. And in the next hour, testimony is set to resume from former tabloid executive David Pecker. That's coming up at roughly 2:15 p.m. So you want to stay tuned for that. But right now, we want to go to CNN's Kara Scannell, who was in court for this morning's cross-examination and then the redirect examination. Kara, take us through what you saw.
Yeah, Boris, so Trump's attorneys started their cross-examination today, continuing the theme that they had yesterday, trying to say that a lot of what David Pecker and the National Enquirer was doing was, as he put it, standard operating procedure. He went through a number of the news articles that the Enquirer had published of Trump's political opponents, Ben Carson, Marco Rubio, and Pecker agreed that they would have run these stories even if he didn't have that deal with the former president that was struck in August 2015 at Trump Tower to catch and kill any negative stories, as well as to publish negative stories about his political opponents. They also tried to catch David Pecker in some inconsistencies in his testimony. David Pecker has been cooperating with prosecutors, both federal prosecutors and the district attorney's office, for several years now. And so they were focusing on, remember the testimony about a January 2017 meeting at Trump Tower that David Pecker walked into while Donald Trump was finishing up a meeting with with the then FBI Director James Comey and others. And during this meeting is when David Pecker testified that there was that he had a conversation with Donald Trump, and Donald Trump thanked him for taking care of the doorman story and the Karen McDougal story. So Donald Trump's attorneys pressed him on notes from a previous interview he had given with investigators, and in that interview notes, he said, according to the FBI's notes, that David Pecker told them that Donald Trump did not express any gratitude. Well, David Pecker dug in on that today, saying that the FBI notes were wrong and that his testimony over the past few days is the correct, accurate testimony. So a lot of back and forth over different inconsistencies in certain agreements and trying to get David Pecker off his feet. Now, we did see during the testimony of cross-examination, David Pecker, some of his answers were very quiet. One answer was so quiet it was barely audible in the courtroom. When the prosecutors began their redirect of him to try to address some of the issues that the cross-examination raised, David Pecker began to grow more confident again. He was again turning to look toward the jury as he was answering those questions. And prosecutors' focus on the redirect was that David Pecker would not have done some of these things but for the deal. He would not have entered into the agreement to pay $150,000 to Karen McDougal without the understanding that Donald Trump would have reimbursed him for it. He would not have ever allowed anybody on behalf of a candidate to get involved with amending some of these catch and kill deals. So he was trying to reset the table with David Pecker there. That is expected to continue after the lunch break. Prosecutors said they have about less than a half an hour more questions. Trump's attorney said he will have a few more on cross-examination, and then we'll move on to the next witness in this case, which they've not publicly said who that is yet. Boris?
Kara Scannell, live outside the courthouse. Thank you so much. We want to go back to Wolf Blitzer in the nation's capital. Wolf?
All right, Boris, thank you. I want to turn to my panel. Ellie Honig, let me start with you. Explain what the prosecution aims to do in this redirect.
So the goal of redirect is to try to minimize or undo any damage done in the cross-examination. And just to give like a little visual representation, each of these has to get narrower and narrower. Your direct exam is here. Your cross-exam has to be within, and usually narrower than, the direct exam. Then your redirect has to be narrower than and within the cross-exam, and so on down the line. I think the main points that prosecutors are trying to reinforce here as we head into redirect are, first of all, this was an intentional, organized operation. It was AMI, National Enquirer, David Pecker working hand in hand with Michael Cohen and Donald Trump and the campaign in order to buy these stories, in order to protect Donald Trump's campaign prospects. That's the bottom line that they're trying to get back at.
Interesting. You know, Elliot Williams is with us as well. Before this redirect, Elliot, what did you make of the defense's cross-examination?
I think the defense did what they had to do. The point of cross-examination is to score as many points as possible against the witness. And the main things here, in the absence of a major bombshell that they could extract, are, number one, attack the witness's credibility. Do you remember these things that you said you did? And they pointed to a few instances where a statement he'd made didn't quite match a document, and they sort of made those. Again, the case won't rise and fall on them, but they can dirty up the witness a little bit. Also, a big thing they focused on were these catch and kill, or at least article schemes that involved individuals other than politicians, making the case that, well, not just Donald Trump, but Arnold Schwarzenegger or Mark Wahlberg also were parties to arrangements with AMI in which we engaged in the same conduct you were accusing us of having committed a crime in doing. So muddying the waters as to whether these payments were made to affect a campaign. They were made for all sorts of purposes, and that's what they're saying.
Although Arnold Schwarzenegger, of course, was planning a run for governor of California, so to not call him a politician at that moment, I think it very much was in the ether, that agreement as part of a potential campaign.
It's not as good. That's not as good an example for them as Marky Mark was.
The whole point is that, you know, that what Trump's attorneys are saying is that this was standard operating procedure. This is what you did at the Inquirer, and what Steinglass is saying is, you know, he asked the question, do you normally pay people $150,000? And, you know, like they paid Karen McDougal. And the answer was, no, we don't normally do that. So it wasn't standard operating procedure. And I think they were, you know, they were trying to make that point that this was different. Yeah. This was hatched differently. This was intended to help a presidential campaign. And it cost money. Bigger money than they were used to paying people.
And Trump's attorneys have made a point of trying to argue to the jury, this is all just a big sleazy business, and why does this become criminal? And the fact that it was done other times and consistently through many years is helpful, on the margins, but helpful to Donald Trump's team. Because then, let's imagine the counterfactual. What if they never did this for anybody until Donald Trump came along and then they said, okay, we're going to do this thing. We're going to pay people for their stories. We're going to put out harmful stories. That would be a lot more sinister and a lot easier for the jury to understand why does this cross the line. But Gloria, you're exactly right. That's the line that prosecutors are trying to define.
It's a different level.
Yeah.
A different level.
But I would also note that some of the final questions that just got asked a few moments ago were, do you remember an instance in which, number one, someone was paid $150,000 for this type of scheme? And he said, no. After meeting with Donald Trump, did you have more of an interest in helping the campaign? Yes, and that's sort of where the prosecution sort of ended with their last round.
You know, David Chalian, a bunch of reporters who are in the courtroom are suggesting today that Trump's energy seems to have been a lot lower today, that he's been sitting back with his eyes closed for a lot of the testimony that was going on. What is that? How do you read that?
I mean, I think it's got to be pretty grueling to be confined to your chair, sitting there day in and day out in court. It's not a stimulating kind of environment for him. So I can understand why he may be tiring of this process. That may explain some of his lower energy. I think we have to be careful about reading too much into this kind of description because, you know, yesterday I thought was a perfect example. We saw him in the morning. He was very energetic in his comments and taking on Joe Biden. After the long day of court, he was a little lower energy. as I think many people would be at the end of a long day. I don't know that there's something we can like take away from that, Wolf, and say, oh, this is clearly killing him in some way. No, but do I think sitting in that courtroom, and again, so differently for Donald Trump than everything else in his life. This is a man who dictates his own schedule, is ensconced in this special place of security and a bubble and billionaires and millionaires. This is not somebody who is inclined to have to just be told to sit still in a courtroom with all regular folk nonstop all day long.
I don't think people realize how boring court is. The air is stale. It's a room in which you can't get up and walk around.
It's very cold.
The temperature may not be regulated in a way that's comfortable for everybody, but it's not. And in particular, this sort of bonfire of the vanities 1980s courtroom does not come with the trappings of a modern environment. It can be very hard to sit in that environment, particularly if you're not the person who's arguing or speaking.
Well, he has no control over it. Exactly. He can't control the thermostat even. He can't control what the judge is going to do. He can't control what's going on the witness stand. Right. He can talk to his lawyers. He can pass some notes. He can't even look at his phone, which I think is very difficult for him. So he's used to being, as David was saying, he's used to being in control of everything and every moment of his day. And he is not in control in that courtroom.
It seems somebody has had a heart-to-heart with Donald Trump about his in-court conduct, because his out-of-court conduct has been abominable. He has, I believe, violated the gag order many times over. I think we'll potentially see such a ruling from the judge soon. But all of his conduct in court is exactly what virtually every criminal defendant does. Sometimes you whisper to your attorney, you pass notes, you look at some witnesses, sometimes there's eye contact, sometimes there's not. And if I was his lawyer, I would have tried to stress to him, this is all about self-preservation. That jury is looking at you. If you offend that jury, you are going to harm your chances of surviving this trial. If that jury feels like you're being respectful, you're going to, marginally, but you're going to increase your chances of getting a good verdict. It seems, we're a week in, so we'll see how long this can hold out, but it seems that message has gotten through with respect to his in-court, in front of the jury behavior.
Important caveat that we're a weekend, because
I'm not vouching for what
as
happens
I'm
next.
listening to you, I'm reminded of all the times of teleprompter Trump versus non-teleprompter Trump, and can he really change? And he proves time and again that he doesn't really change, but I take your point. I mean, he is clearly heeding some advice about how not to put his foot in his mouth in front of the jury.
You know, when do you get to look at Donald Trump for hours on end? You never do. I mean, the reporters in that courtroom are not used to this either, because you look at Donald Trump in sound bites or in an interview or whatever, but you don't look at him for hours. And that's what's going on in that courtroom. And so the journalists are looking for every twitch and saying, oh, is this meaningful? But they're not used to seeing him either like this. Nobody
everybody
is.
Stand by. We're going to have a lot to report on in the next few hours. Indeed, much more of our special coverage coming up. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The Stanley Cup Playoffs, presented by Geico, are on TNT and TBS.
That electric atmosphere. You gotta love it.
The Stanley Cup Playoffs, presented by Geico. Coverage continues tonight at 6:30 on TNT and TBS.
With Car Gurus, you can buy or sell your car, in person or online. If only you could do things your way all the time. Wouldn't that be nice? Get it with Gurus.
When we say it'll be on time, they expect it to be on time.
Turn shipping to your advantage.
Keep those expectations with reliable ground shipping.
Thanks, Brandon.
With USPS Ground Advantage.
Some people just know there's a better way to do things. Like bundling your home and auto insurance with Allstate. Yeah, she knows. And some people don't. Like, come on. Yikes. No. You know there's a better way. Save time and money by bundling your home and auto with Allstate. You're in good hands with Allstate.
Hey, with Priceline VIP Family, you can unlock deals 5 times faster. You don't even have to be an actual family.
Oh, I'd be the dad.
I'm the dad. Hey, physically, it's clear that I'm the dad.
Okay, so which dad is paying?
You're the dad.
Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Now play
You're making us wait.
the must-see movie of the spring.
arrives.
Want me to come tuck you in?
This is Zendaya like you've never seen her before.
You're saying I should be flattered.
It's thrilling, intoxicating, and hilarious.
Why am I in your car?
Because you're stupid.
You're stupid.
I know. I'm just not as disturbed by it as you are.
It's an absolute blast. Do not miss this movie. Challengers.
Good night.
Rated R, now playing only in theaters.
Zyrtec allergy relief works fast and lasts a full 24 hours, so Dave can be the
Deliverer of dance.
Okay, Dave. Let's be more than our allergies. Z's the day with Zyrtec.
Life, diabetes. There's no slowing down. Each day is a unique blend of people to see and things to do. That's why you choose Glucerna to help manage blood sugar response. Uniquely designed with Carb Steady. Glucerna. Bring on the day.
Denture wearers can go wild with wildly adhesive C-Bond denture seals. Get strong all-day hold thanks to gradual release technology. Go wild. C-Bond. Wildly adhesive.
Oh, crap. That's a really good gift.
Now we gotta get France something.
Wait, we could use Etsy's new gift mode. Yes. What are the French like? Anyone?
Cheese. They like cheese.
Brilliant. Done.
Plateau de fromage! Ooh la la!
Don't panic. Get easy with gift mode. New on Etsy.
I'm Martha Stewart, and this is one of my new kittens. Of course, I want to give them the happiest, healthiest life possible, which is why I choose Pretty Litter. We love this litter because it's tough on odor and helps keep tabs on their health by changing color to show high, low, and typical pH levels. Pretty Litter is also low dust. And whether you're a new cat parent or a lifelong cat lover like me, this low-maintenance litter is the game changer. Try it today. Go to prettylitter.com.
These are all jobs for someone with autism. Yet only 1 in 5 people with autism are employed, despite many having the skill set and desire to work. To learn more and lead the way in inclusive hiring, go to autismspeaks.org/win.
We just shipped our millionth monthly coffee subscription box, so we're sending custom thank you gifts to our team. Our custom ink rep is just as excited as we are and knows what great quality products to get. Celebrate your milestones with custom gear. Get started today at customink.com.
Closed captioning brought to you by Mesobook.com.
Our firm only represents mesothelioma victims and their families. If you or a loved one has been diagnosed with mesothelioma, call us now.
Welcome back to CNN's special coverage of former President Trump's criminal hush money trial. Court is now in recess for a little bit longer. Tabloid executive David Pecker will be back on the stand in minutes. But before the break, they took a lunch break a little while ago, prosecutors were trying to reestablish David Pecker's credibility after the defense exposed some small inconsistencies in Pecker's statements. I want to bring in jury consultant and president of Decision Analysis, Richard Gabriel. Richard, thanks so much for joining us. There was a moment today where Trump attorney Emile Beauvais drilled down on David Pecker's 2018 interview with the FBI and some inconsistencies between notes from that interview and Pecker's current testimony emerged. How do inconsistencies like that weigh in a jury as they look at a case?
Well, I think it's more about how the jury already has viewed the witness, whether they feel that he's been authentic and sincere and straightforward with them. If they feel that he's been kind of a little bit shady in some of his answers, even on the direct testimony, they don't particularly like him, then they can see those inconsistencies as really key to credibility problems. But a lot of times we do focus on sort of these minor points and whether that really does it. And sometimes it's a forest for the trees type of issue. Jury is really looking at, well, what does this really say? You know, is this really a bad conduct here? What does it really say about the witness? These small inconsistencies tend to not have that great an impact unless there's sort of a big blow to the witness's credibility. So I'm not sure it's going to have a tremendous effect at this point.
Yeah, interesting. Many of the key points the defense is trying to make are very, very nuanced, shall we say. Does the defense run the risk of making an argument too complicated for a jury?
There is that definition. The problem here is that it's trying to establish what is the thing. The credibility is one thing, but I think one of the things they are trying to establish here is just, again, trying to normalize the behavior. So as opposed to saying he's not necessarily credible, they're saying, look, this is something, and it's one of the primary arguments that the Trump team, I think, is making in the case, which is this is just politics. This is not necessarily a criminal conduct. And I think he's hoping to reach some of the jurors on here. This is why jury selection can be so important, because you've got 2 lawyers, 2 engineers, people in wealth management, and whether they're going to interpret this testimony to really say, okay, is this actually illegal versus just politics as usual?
Trump's attorney at one point, I thought this was interesting, also apologized to David Pecker over confusion in the questioning of whether Hope Hicks, a former Trump aide, had come up in an interview with the FBI. From your experience, does a defense attorney apologizing to a witness have any sway on jurors?
Typically, no. I mean, it depends how big it is. I mean, you know, it really has to do with how hard they're going. It doesn't sound like they're going after him very hard on this. And so it's sort of this convivial type of thing. There's always this sort of delicate balance, because the attorney can lose credibility also if they go too hard after the witness, because then it highlights their testimony. To a certain extent, I think they want to make a few points and then get this witness off the stand, hoping to make stronger points on credibility with Michael Cohen and some of the other witnesses.
Does the mood change, Richard, in a courtroom when the defense gets to cross-examine a prosecutor's witness?
Well, yes. I mean, what the defense always hopes is that they can take over the case at that point, because obviously the prosecutors control the evidence and the flow of the facts at that point. And so it is an opportunity for the defense attorneys to sort of try to take back control, try to reestablish some of their themes, try to impugn the credibility of the witness, try to score a few points. But ultimately, they have to make a judgment call in terms of how strongly do you then want to highlight the witness's testimony, because the more time and energy you put into cross-examining that witness, also it can tend to highlight some of those things, or the witness can do very well. And so it's a judgment call for a lot of attorneys. Do I stay in or do I get out and cut my losses?
Our team in the courtroom, Richard, they've been paying very, very close attention to the jurors, the 12 jurors, who they say have been following with their eyes the back and forth between the Trump attorney and Pecker, for example. What does that say to you about how intently the jury is paying attention to this case?
Well, obviously they know it's a pretty important case, so they're very tuned in. And, you know, this is the first witness on the stand. So jurors' attention is at its highest on the first witness. Opening statements are critical because they sort of establish the story that both sides are trying to tell. And the first witness it's kind of, okay, how does the evidence going to support either the prosecution's case or the defense's case? So they're tracking it very closely. You've got very smart people on this jury who clearly want to pay attention. So I think obviously they're very keen on trying to figure out, what does this witness mean? If this goes on for weeks and weeks and weeks, you may see some of their attention wane. And also, I think both sides have to be careful, because sometimes redundancy can tire a jury out, and they can kind of go, I kind of got the point here, and they want to move on, even though the attorneys want to score that one little extra point.
And they're paying really, really close attention right now, as they clearly should. Richard Gabriel, thanks so much for your expertise. And just ahead, we'll have much more of our special coverage of this historic hush money trial of Donald Trump, a week unlike we've ever seen before. Court resumes in about 40 minutes. Much more of our special coverage right after this.
When the Jinx came out, I thought, oh my God.
When Bob has a friend, he expects blind loyalty.
There are going to be surprises and surprises.
Skin craving next level hydration? New Neutrogena Hydro Boost Water Cream. A vital boost of 9 times more hydration to boost your skin's barrier for quenched, dewy skin that's full of life. Neutrogena Hydro Boost.
If your moderate to severe Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms are stopping you in your tracks, choose Stellara from the start and move toward relief after the first dose, with injections every 2 months.
Stellara may increase your risk of infections, some serious, and cancer. Before treatment, get tested for TB. Tell your doctor if you've had an infection, flu-like symptoms, sores, new skin growths, have had cancer, or if you need a vaccine. PRES, a rare potentially fatal brain condition, may be possible. Some serious allergic reactions and lung inflammation can occur.
Feel unstoppable. Ask your doctor how lasting remission can start with Stellara. Johnson & Johnson can help you explore cost support options.
SoFi is helping me get my money right to achieve my ambitions. With SoFi checking and savings, I pay no account fees and earn one of the best APYs in the league. Score a higher APY and an epic welcome bonus when you set up direct deposit.
I brought in Ensure Max Protein with 30 grams of protein. Those who tried me felt more energy in just 2 weeks. Here, I'll take that.
Ensure Max Protein. 30 grams protein, 1 gram sugar, 25 vitamins and minerals, and a new fiber blend with a prebiotic.
Smile, you found it. The feeling of finding psoriasis can't filter out the real you. So go ahead, live unfiltered with the one and only Sotyktu, a once daily pill for moderate to severe plaque psoriasis and the chance at clear or almost clear skin. It's like the feeling of finding you're so ready for your close-up, or finding you don't have to hide your skin, just your background. Once daily Sotyktu was proven better, getting more people clearer skin than the leading pill. Don't take if you're allergic to Sotyktu. Serious reactions can occur. Sotyktu can lower your ability to fight infections, including TB. Serious infections, cancers including lymphoma, muscle problems, and changes in certain labs have occurred. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, liver or kidney problems, high triglycerides, or had a vaccine or plan to. Sotyktu is a TYK2 inhibitor. TYK2 is part of the JAK family. It's not known if Sotyktu has the same risks as JAK inhibitors. Find what plaque psoriasis has been hiding. There's only one Sotyktu, so ask for it by name. So clearly you. Sotyktu.
Zyrtec allergy relief works fast and lasts a full 24 hours, so Dave can be the
deliverer of dance.
Okay, Dave. Let's be more than our allergies. Seize the day with Zyrtec.
So I can take all these trips because Priceline has all these amazing deals. And that's when I said, deal!
And on your right is our Infinity Deal Pool. I am the deals. The deals are me. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Attention former Marines and family members stationed to Camp Lejeune. If you lived or worked at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, for at least 30 days from August 1953 to December 1987 and have been diagnosed with cancer, neurobehavioral effects, had a child born with birth defects, or been diagnosed with fertility issues or more, significant compensation may be available. Call Legal Injury Advocates now to discuss your case. It has been proven that the water at Camp Lejeune during those years was extremely contaminated with toxic chemicals. Legal Injury Advocates has extensive experience helping you to get the maximum compensation you deserve. Don't wait until it's too late. See if you qualify today. You're not alone in this fight, and there are no upfront costs to begin your journey to justice. The call is completely free, and we're available 24 hours a day. Call Legal Injury Advocates to discuss your case now.
Call 1-800-885-1177 or visit www.lia.legal. That's 1-800-885-1177. Call now.
I'm Elizabeth Wagmeister in Los Angeles, and this is CNN.
Welcome back to CNN's special live coverage of Donald Trump's historic first criminal trial. Any moment now, former tabloid executive David Pecker is set to return to the witness stand to continue his 4th day of testimony. Earlier today, he underwent cross-examination by Trump's defense team before facing redirect questioning by prosecutors. Pecker's been on the stand for just under 10 hours over the course of these 4 days. We're joined now by John Dean. He's a CNN contributor, former White House counsel in the Nixon administration. He also co-wrote the book Authoritarian Nightmare, Trump and His Followers. John, thank you so much for sharing part of your afternoon with us. So David Pecker, nearly 10 hours on the stand. What moments most stand out to you from his testimony?
Well, I think he's a good witness from what I've read, and I've read the transcript of the first couple days. He's an excellent witness. When he doesn't know something, he admits it. When it's something unpleasant that he'd probably rather not address, he openly addresses it. And so he's going to be a very credible witness, and I think the redirect today cleaned up any doubts in the jury's mind.
Much of the testimony so far is effectively setting the table for the prosecution's argument, right? We haven't heard much about Stormy Daniels and the arrangement that the former president had with her through Michael Cohen. How do you think this early stage of testimony will play into the bigger picture?
It really does, as you said, set the table. What it does in legal terms, it establishes the conspiracy and shows who the players were and how they operated within the conspiracy. And the Stormy Daniels is just an ongoing part of this conspiracy that the prosecutors are now laying out. And that has a lot of implications for evidence and for the way they proceed. And I think the jury will get it as the pieces get filled in now from this broad outline that Pecker has given through the prosecutors.
One of the big questions, of course, is who is set to testify after the testimony of David Pecker wraps up. The former president said yesterday that he would testify if it's necessary. Do you think his defense attorneys are probably trying to talk him out of that?
I suspect they are. He is not a good witness. The few times he's been on the stand and in depositions at some length, we can see he's not a good witness. So this is a little bravado for his base because there are obviously political implications of great dimension for him in this trial and the others.
We also haven't gotten a decision from Judge Merchan on whether Trump violated the gag order. The prosecution wants him held in contempt of court for more than a dozen instances in which they say that he violated a gag order that would have prevented him from speaking out about witnesses in the case, about even staff in the courtroom. What do you make of the delay in a decision here? Does that create ambiguity, or is it an indication that the judge wants to focus on the facts of the case and not necessarily the distractions that the defendant potentially is causing on social media?
Well, of course, the prosecutors have filed additional violations of the gag order, and I think they're trying to hope that the judge will be able to take this under deliberation. I think what the judge is trying to do is not distract from the progress of the trial with the gag order issue. He probably is measuring that the fact that the jury, if they're following their instructions, are not becoming aware of Trump's out-of-court statements and attacks on witnesses and the jury itself, but rather they want to, judges want to move their cases along because juries do get tired. And so that's, I think, his main focus. I frankly think he's going to have to say something very soon because he's giving Trump too much leash to just continue to violate without any sanction.
John Dean, appreciate your perspective. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks, Boris.
Of course. Stay with CNN because our special live coverage is set to continue right after this. Court expected to resume at 2:15. Stay with us.
Live from the nation's capital, one of the most unforgettable nights in D.C.
It's wonderful to be back here again.
President Biden and comedian Colin Jost headline the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Live tomorrow at 7 Eastern on CNN.
Not flossing well? Then add the whoa of Listerine to your routine. New science shows Listerine is 5 times more effective than floss at reducing plaque above the gum line for a cleaner, healthier mouth. Listerine, feel the whoa.
Maria and Julio thought their life would never slow down. Then, one day, it finally did. You were made to find inner peace. We were made to track flight prices to paradise.
Our
All new Subway wraps are packed with delicious ingredients and a pillowy lavash wrap. Finally, a refreshing lunch that tastes amazing.
Perfect for pro athletes like me, right?
Can I finish? Buy one wrap, get 150% off in the Subway app today.
Zyrtec allergy relief works fast and lasts a full 24 hours, so Dave can be the
deliverer of dance.
Okay, Dave. Let's be more than our allergies. Z's the day with Zyrtec.
I love your dress.
Oh, thanks. I splurged a little because Liberty Mutual customized my car insurance and I saved hundreds.
That's great.
I know, right? I've been telling everyone.
Liberty.
Did you hear that? I just said her first word. Can you say mama?
Liberty.
Can you say auntie?
Liberty.
How many people did you tell?
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, liberty, liberty. Liberty.
Nobody's born with grit.
Rose is really struggling.
It's something you build over time.
It's 21 missed cuts in a row.
For 88 years, Morgan Stanley has offered clients determination and forward thinking to create the future only you can see.
Rose, back in the winner's circle.
There are giants among us. They are the men and women building our Navy's next generation submarines. They are giants in what they do because they work in a place where they can grow, where they can learn the skills to build careers as powerful as the beasts they forge. We build giants because it takes one to build one.
Michael lost 20 pounds with LifeMD.
I've always wanted to lose weight, but I never figured out the right way to do it. I did a cleanse, and I said, I can't do this anymore. And I asked a couple buddies, I said, how do I lose this weight? And the guy goes, LifeMD. Got on the computer immediately, and probably the easiest thing I've ever done. The medication comes in the mail, and it's very easy to use. I've been able to live my normal lifestyle, and I've lost 20 pounds already. I now come home, spend time with my kids, and I've never felt better. Changed my life.
Check your eligibility in minutes at GetLifeMD.com.
Take control of your health by boosting your force field, the immune system. Aura tells you when your temperature is higher than normal. Live smarter, stronger, healthier with the Aura Ring.
We're coming together for our yearly service project and running a t-shirt fundraiser through Custom Ink to help the cause. Plus, their design services team helped us get a design we love. Come together for a cause. Get started today at customink.com.
How It Really Happened, Sunday at 9 on CNN.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Sokolov Law.
Mesothelioma victims, call now. $30 billion in trust money has been set aside. You may be entitled to a portion of that money.
Call 1-800-859-2400. That's 1-800-859-2400.